at Income Tax Department, Chairman at Mumbai Port Trust, Special Director West Zone at Enforcement Directorate, has a degree in economics, law and management. I think we'll need a quarter of a session to read all his achievements out. So all I can say is, if you must learn the game, you should learn it from the champion. So we brought the champion aboard so that we can learn from him and he can add his perspective to this session. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Shri A.K. Bora, IRS, former chairman, MBPA. May I request you, sir, to please join us on stage. And I'll take this opportunity to invite the panelists on stage. Dr. D. Kumaran Raju, NTC PwC IIT Madras, Shri Divajan Roy, CFTM, East Coast Railway, Shri Ramprasad Panda, RO NHAI, Shri Anshuman Srivastav, Senior Director ENY, Shri Manoranjan Gupta, Vice President Portal, Shri Sumit Sharma from Tech Mahindra. Can we have a round of applause for the Honorable Moderator and all esteemed panelists? And may I request the Moderator to please begin the proceedings of this session.
Very pleasant morning to all of you, esteemed panelists on the dais, Chairman Paradip Port Trust, friends, ladies and gentlemen. Today, we are going to have a very powerful panel discussion today, for which we have very, very distinguished panelists on the dais. I must thank Chairman Paradip Port Trust for the favor of endowing me with the privilege of moderating this session and then organizing this beautiful, very relevant and very important conference, which is predominantly on the logistics aspects of maritime sector. Friends, you know, all of you are very veterans. I'm not going to teach you or tell you anything about the subject which is very familiar to you. But then I must say that the logistics sector in the maritime sector is extremely critical. In fact, in my view, this is the lifeline of the nation as such. Why is it so? As you all know and as you are all familiar with, you see more than 90% of our country's trade is handled by the maritime sector. That is 90% by volume and nearly about 80% by value. It is also very important to know that this sector accounts for nearly 14.5% of GDP, and in terms of cost, it is 14% of as far as cost of logistics is concerned, it's about 14% of the GDP. So we have a situation where the country is extremely dependent, heavily dependent on the maritime logistics, and at the same time, it represents a sector which is highly expensive. So this is a paradoxical situation. So this heavy dependence on maritime sector and high cost is an issue which needs to be addressed. And that makes the sector less competitive, and that hinders our exim trade and domestic trade. In fact, this issue has various aspects to it. You know, there are infrastructural issues, there are governing issues, there are efficiency issues, there are delivery issues, there are technical issues, technology issues. All these issues, obviously, in the course of discussion today, various, panelists will throw light upon. In fact, the 14% of the cost being too high, is a matter of serious concern for the government. And keeping that in view, the Government of India has come out with a broad policy framework and a guidance direction. See, the PM's Gati Shakti policy, the National Management Plan, and recently published National Logistics Policy is a pointer to that direction and pointer to the fact that the government gives highest priority to this aspect of logistics issue. I'm not going to get into details about the Gati Shakti and the National Management Policy, National Logistics Policy, but needless to mention that in National Logistics Policy, there are three aspects, there are three targets which the government has envisaged. The first is that the present cost of 14% has to be reduced to the global competitive level of 8% by 2030. Second is that and then the another aspect which is very important is that you have to have a digital platform by which the seamless integration of various components have to be integrated so that the efficiency gains are translated into cost saving. So these are the broad targets which have been envisaged in the National Logistics Policy. So in that sense, this is an extreme, in fact the guidance note in that sense has set the target where we need to move. See, keeping that in view, the logistics sector is also sort of witnessing some transformational changes. What are the broad transformational changes or trends being witnessed by the sector? I'll tell you, I'll list out few. See, the first issue which I envisage is that there is a marked shift on the emphasis or the character of the logistics sector. Logistics function is moving from the concept of a support function to an impact function, or the logistics sector is being viewed as a driver or the engine of growth. So there is a marked shift. Second shift which I am witnessing, or everyone is witnessing, is the sector is moving from a segmental approach to a holistic approach. And in that holistic approach, the technology or digitization is forming a very critical component. Third, there is a marked shift in the modal mix of cargo movement. Next, the logistics from a conventional role function is moving as a solution provider, end-to-end solution provider. And next trend which I am witnessing is that there is a robust policy framework and guidance note. And finally, and very importantly, we are moving to what is called a sustainability or a carbon neutral framework. So these are the various trends which are witnessing. So I am not going further into details because all of you are waiting to hear the distinguished panelists, and before I hand over to the distinguished panelists. It is my bounden duty to introduce them so that you have a feel of the session that is going to emerge. See, we have with us, one second. We have with us Dr. D. Kumaran Raju. He is Principal Scientist, National Technology Center for Ports and Waterways and Coasts. He is a scientific researcher with more than 25 years of rich experience, very distinguished achiever. He is currently working with a team of young engineers on various topics, namely smart and innovative methods for hydrographic surveying and environmental monitoring, business process mapping and logistics supply chain management for smart port operations, digital twins for port automation and integrated terminal operating systems, next generation e-navigation as part of vessel traffic planning and management. So we could not have expected more. He is one of the finest and erudite panelists with us, so we'll be eagerly waiting for him. Next, I have the pleasure of introducing Devanjan Rai. He is an Indian Railway Traffic Service Officer of 2002 batch. He is CFTM East Coast Railway, a very accomplished officer, and his presence is of course going to add value to the session. We have with us Sumit Sharma. He is from Tech Mahindra. He worked across globe in different and diverse organizations for 29 years. He was managing large transformation delivery across diverse teams. He had worked with IBM and GE, a very accomplished technology person. So we have the pleasure of his presence today, and we'll surely gain from his presence and from his discourse. Anshuman, he is a director in Ernst & Young. He has been working in the transport and logistics sector since past 15 years. And he has been interfacing with the Ministry of Commerce and Industry and multiple state governments for improving logistics ecosystem in India. We are indeed very fortunate to have you, Anshuman. Then we have Manoranjan Gupta is not there, no? Yeah. We have with us Manoranjan Gupta from Port. He is the Vice President and Head Process at Portal Information Private Limited, a Jamboxy Group company. He is an alumni of Mumbai University and a certified shipping and logistics professional from Indian Institute of Ahmedabad. Manoranjan has more than 2 decades of experience in the field of system design and implementation for shipping, logistics, transportation in air and ocean trade. He has been closely associated with PCS, and he has very vast experience. And I'm sure all of us will immensely gain from his experience. Mr. Panda. We have with us Dr. Ram Prasad Panda, GM Technical and Regional Officer, National Highway Authority. And he's also the Managing Director of Paradip Port Road Company Limited with us. Dr. Panda is a very, very experienced person, and he has many achievements to his credit. He has been, he has very, as I told you, very commendable works to his credit. He has executed during his period many EPC, BOT, annuity, BOT grant and projects. During his recent tenure, he has completed nearly 1,100 kilometers of 4 and 6 lane works in Odisha, in addition to completion of important corridors such as Vijayawada, Ranchi, etc. So, he's a very handsome man. His presence and his discourse is certainly going to throw a lot of lights on the highway connectivity and road connectivity projects to the ports in East Coast. So, I think I have completed all. Anyone left? So, I must also add that this is a very, very unique panel because we are discussing the supply side, predominantly the supply side issue of the logistics aspects. And all of them, they represent the supply sides. Whether it is highway, whether it is road, whether it is technology, whether it is integration, we have a beautiful panelist. So I'm sure they will share their experience as to what are the key trends, what are their vision, and what needs to be done so that we'll immensely benefit from their discourses and deliveries. So I think as far as the rules are concerned, do you have any particular thing as to how do I go the order of speaking, or the whatever mentioned in what has been communicated to me by the port will go by that? Okay. So I suggest each speaker would say for about 5 to 6 minutes, and then we'll throw this house for exchange of views and question answers, and then that is how we'll, I think it's all acceptable to you? Okay. Thank you very much. So now I hand over the mic to the panelist. My first speaker would be Mr. Raju, Dr. Kumaran Raju.
Now, will that be a display?
Once again, I think, hello. Dr. Raju will basically cover adoption of advanced technology in port operations. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Respected Chairman Paradip Port, delegates, ladies and gentlemen, very good morning to you all. In fact, it's a pleasure to meet you all today morning, and this is a very important event that we are looking at the challenges which we are going to face in 2030 and 2047, which is already in line, and then what is the type of mapping which we can able to go through that, and that can be discussed through this 2 days event. And I'm more happy to share some of the works which we are carrying out and how we can able to map this thing towards this Gati Shakti meet. I have a few slides to share. Let me move through this. So one of the key area where we can look into is the maritime industry, which has challenges to face, and how ICT solutions can able to support those type of challenges. And this was very well discussed in detail in MIV 2030, where developing smart ports is one of the ease of doing business, reducing logistics costs through multimodal shift, especially on institutional, regulatory and legislative measures, building safe and sustainable and green maritime sector. These are all the areas where we can able to look into it to move forward. The most important component which Chair also already mentioned is the maritime digitalization part. So we have many nodes in a maritime digitalization sector, where we have agents, terminal operations, port operations, ships. All those information need to flow through a proper system. And the good part is in maritime digitalization is we can able to customize those, so that even we can able to reconfigure or remap those solutions. And some of the process which is involved, which I listed out here, is the port community system, which we are aiming for the next version, which should have an international participation onto it. The other challenge is the automated gate processing. So that is where we can able to reduce the waiting time, and e-delivery orders and berthing. Then developing the national logistics portal, which is one of the main thing which can able to connect all the hubs, and then transforming our Indian ports to smart ports. So with this part, we can able to achieve more on to digitalization part. The next one is on the integration of this systems in terms of port and yard management. So one of the things is like all our machinery which is handling in the ports, for example the cranes, and also profiling of the terminals, all those requires automation, and that is where we can able to wire them and then talk to them, so that we can able to have an holistic approach of what is happening within the port, including like berth allotment, land allotment, or even the truck movements. All those can be integrated together as a part of this digitalization efforts, where we can have a holistic picture. One example of automated gate entry system, where we can have an RFID to control it, X-ray scanners, which is being promoted in all the ports now, and also geofencing and try to track the vehicles within the port limits. So this also not only for safety, we can also have to have some sort of an optimization in terms of vehicle tracking. And monitoring of cranes. This is something which even we tried it out in 2 ports, one in JNPT as well as in Kolkata. Where how we can able to optimize or predictive maintain this crane productions. So this is one of the thing which we can able to optimize some of this terminal operations, which also will help in logistics related systems. The other thing is container profiling, or even within the port profiling is very important because of the surveillance, and also to optimize some of this tracking of those containers which are left over. Then just in time and arrival and departures. This is something which is almost many ports are trying to hands on to it. So that we can able to do berth arrival, departure and arrival planning, pilot boarding places, cargo operations, and then even estimated time of terminal completions, operation completions, and the estimated time of arrival and estimated time of departure is something which we can able to predict it and then provide it for just-in-time operations. And the most important thing is now with the emerging technologies such as artificial intelligence and machine learning, where we can look into how we can optimize some of these nodes present within the ports as well as the logistics sector, so that we can learn from the time series information and then try to predict what can happen and how it can be optimized. So the most important component which we are currently also being highlighted worldwide is digital twins. This is a digital replica of a port or a ship or even a port or port operations or terminal operations, where we can able to digitalize it, and you don't need to fiddle around with the real-time scenarios. You can always do a digital change and then we can able to test it out and then implement in the port operations. Some of the benefits which we can look into is optimizing the fleet operations, where digital twins can allow you to induce some of your optimization parameters, study it, and then you can implement in the real time. The other thing is on enhancing port and terminal operations, which I already stated, like container handling cranes, like how many moves it can do in a day, and how we can improvise it, and what will be the productivity at the end of the day we can able to achieve. And in terms of operational productivity, the asset monitoring and tracking of the elements of the assets, all those also can help in productivity. Then end-to-end supply chain optimization, where we can able to track now the containers or whatever the parcels which is being moving around, and how we can able to optimize through just-in-time type of things. The most important component, or the final component which we are looking at, is in the cyber security space. So one of the things which we can able to look into is one third party type of hacking or cyber security threats. Another thing is within the system itself, while integrating, we will have threats. So those things also can be simulated and then tested out, and then we can able to implement for proper supply chain related things. So this is what I wanted to state here. It's more on how we can able to use technology and trends to optimize our supply chain sector. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Raju. Now I'll invite Mr. Roy, Divanjan Roy, please.
Respected moderator Shri Ball, Chairman of Paradip Port, ladies and gentlemen, and very good morning to you. Today's subject, I would start with a bit of a background, in the sense that it has been estimated by a master plan that logistics in India consists of approximately 10,000 products which are moved. And in terms of tonnage, it comes to about 4,000 to 5,000 million tons in a year. And if you convert it into the distance moved, we have a terminology called NTKM. So it is expected, it is estimated that in India we have around 3 trillion NTKM which is moved in the logistics sector. So in this context, this is the background in which we will see the trends of the multimodal trend which is coming down the years, and then what can be done for the future. So my first slide would be, I'm sorry, where did it go? Yeah. How do I go ahead? One minute, please. I'm sorry. Yeah, sir, this one.
Yeah.
Yes. So if you look at the international international modal share, we see that surprisingly it is the US, which is US and Russia, which has got a huge share of their logistics moving by rail. In US it is to the amount of 40%, and in Russia it is 57%. In India it is around 26%. So Indian Railways, if you look at, so last year we had moved about 820 billion NTKM out of the 3 trillion NTKMs generated in India as far as the logistics is concerned. So that comes to about 27%, right? And then in terms of the national rail plan and the logistics plan, which was just unveiled by the Honorable Prime Minister, looks at increasing the railway share from about 26% today to about 40% by 2030. Now the question is, that why do we look at more rail share. It is not a comparison between, not a competition, I would say, between the various models, but some modes have some advantages over the other. And if you look at the trend, our railway share, which was 85% in 1950, has come down to 26% in the year 21-22. But there is nothing exceptional about it. The worldwide it is the same phenomena worldwide. In China, the growth of railways was around 2% per year, but their roadways growth was about 11 to 12% in these years. Even if you look at leads, the share of railways, which was around 35% for 300 kilometers and beyond, has come down to 24% by 21-22. So what does it show? That the development of good roads has made a modal shift from railways to roads. So there is nothing that of course shows that there is some issue in delivery side of the railways, which is now being addressed in a gradual manner. So if we look at the next slide, we would see that the logistics cost of India is very, very high. It's well known to you. You know it more than me. In coal it is 50%, it is cement it is 25%, it is alumina it is around 18%, iron and steel is 20%. So overall, as Shri Ball has pointed out, it comes to about 14 to 15%. The national aim is to bring it down to 8%. Now how do we bring it? So if we use a multimodal system in which the ports have a major role, that is well known to everybody, all of us, most of us, it is called RSR, like rail sea rail or rail sea road or road sea rail. So it is obvious that if S of the component goes up, we will have advantages in both cost as well as lesser of carbon emission. This data is well known that road generates the maximum of carbon footprints and coastal shipment releases the least. Railway is somewhere in between. Cost wise also it is almost it follows the trend pattern. So the aim of the government and aim of the national planners is to have an optimum mix of rail, sea and road. It doesn't, one mode is not competing with the other, but trying to supplement each other so that the overall costs of logistics comes down. And this is what has been put by the Federation of Indian Organization. The 10% reduction in logistics cost will give us a 5% increment in exports. Nothing can be, it's absolutely beyond doubt that we need to have an optimal mix of intermodal transportation to bring down our logistics, and as that will increase our exports. In this sector, in this context, we would see that Odisha has really taken a lead among all the Indian states to develop this intra-modal mix to a great extent. We have Paradip port, we have Dhamra port, we have now Gopalpur port, which is fully operational, Subarnarekha port under construction, Mahanadi riverine port under construction. We also are looking at doubling our capacities in rail lines. We'll soon have this single line stretches near Talcher, which was a huge bottleneck for movement of logistics, removed. We'll also have this Angul Sukinda link. We'll have the doubling of capacity for the mines which are located in Raurkela and Sundargarh districts, which will bring more iron ore to the ports. So railway is looking at a huge investment in Odisha particularly, which will give. So in this context, I would say that the ports of Odisha, the rail portion in Odisha, as well as the in the locations where iron ore and steel industries as well as coal mines are located, are looking at a quantum jump. So this is the preparation. Next is, what is the way ahead? One way ahead obviously is going for more containerization. It's the worldwide trend, but if you look at it, in Indian Railways, it has improved, but it can do probably more. In 2011, we had 7.3%, it has come to 17%. Yes, but if you look at developed countries, the containerized logistics is around 70 to 75%, where we are stagnating around 25%. It will be a eye-opener to know that till date India is not in a position to manufacture a ISO container. So it gives us a sort of background check or a reality check that we probably need to know more, but we will be glad to know that yes, we are moving forward. There are plans to manufacture ISO containers in India also. Now, looking ahead, you are well aware that government has launched a series of strategic efforts to bring down this cost of logistics. National Logistics Plan, Gati Shakti mission, which is a pet subject of our Honorable Prime Minister. As you are well aware that Lord Surya is pulled by 7 horses. So this Gati Shakti also has these 7 horses pulling it. These are railways, roads, port, waterways, airport, mass transport like metros, and logistic infrastructure like multimodal logistics parks. Very soon we'll have a logistic park. It is almost ready, about to be inaugurated in Paradip port, which will be run by Concor. So we are definitely moving in that direction. We have a national master plan. We have Sagar Mala for the sports. We have Bharat Mala for roads. We have this dedicated freight corridor connecting eastern and western corridor. Yes, delayed, but finally coming to light. Gati Shakti terminals, which has been a liberalized policy for opening freight terminals on railways. So this aims to increase the railway share from presently 27 to 36% by 2025. So this is a very ambitious project, but probably applicable, which is needed for the environment protection as well as to bring down the cost of the logistics. So how do we go about it? One, use railways to ship heavy bulk products. Like 85% of coal is moved by rail, 90% of iron ore, but we need to probably do more. And incidentally, we will tell that in US it has happened. US also saw a great shift, modal shift from rail to road. But if you look at today's date, it is back to a very optimal mix. That is why the cost of logistics in US, being a huge market, is in the range of 8 to 9%. So we probably have a model in that, because China is difficult to follow for us, but US certainly we can do. Second, you use railways for longer distance travel. Now presently the lead of railways and the road in India is surprisingly same, almost same. The average lead for a truck movement is 600 kilometers. The average lead for railways is 588 kilometers. But worldwide it is not the phenomena. In US it grew from 750 kilometers to 1700 kilometers. Of course that is a big country. In China also it is 715 kilometers. So we need to use railways for longer leads and roads for bridging. That will bring us down the cost. After that we go into high value commodity. Worldwide the best is FedEx. FedEx uses the US freight railway extensively for shipping its high value content commodities. But in India, it is only the low value commodity which is generally transported by rail. We are trying to touch on that market by launching these Kishan rails or these automobile specials. But yes, we must admit there is a long way to go. And then through our various outreach process, the intermediate intermodal mix has to be achieved. So this was my submission, that it is high time that we move on from the you are well aware that in that list, we rank somewhere near 38, 39 in that international index which talks of logistics cost. We need to move in a focused manner so that the cost of the logistics comes down from about 14% to 8 to 9%, which is the target of the government, and in which all the 4 or the 5 sectors like railways, roads, waterways, and which will include private players to work in a cohesion to bring that. And I believe this national logistics plan and the national network plan and the task forces which have been constituted, Gati Shakti, in which we are holding this seminar, would go a long way. Thank you so much.
Hello. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Roy. I'll now invite Mr. Panda to speak, and I would request every speaker to speak, stick to their time schedule. Thank you.
Good morning to everybody, respected moderator sir and chairman PPA for inviting me to this platform, for sharing the NHI views and the logistic development in the state, particularly Odisha, in view of the industrializations of Odisha. Then good morning to everybody and namaskar. I will start a small presentation also. Before going into, I will just tell, as everybody is saying, road, though cost is much more and carbon footprint is also much more, but it has a vital role in logistics. It cannot be avoided due to many reasons. The first and last mile connectivity has to be given by road itself. Though others have other benefits like railway, pipeline and maritimes, some ships, but still there are requirement of road network. To reduce the cost of road network and to have this less impact on environment, many new technologies have been carried out in construction as well as logistic management. I will just give some of the few new technologies used in all the roads network in Odisha. We use fly ash, we use geosynthetics in many variety of geosynthetic, non-woven, woven, geostrip, geomat, etc. Then we use CRMB, PMB, natural rubbers, plastic waste also we used, dolchar, then slag we used. Here we can say the slag was the best product of the steel industries. Now they are selling due to our introduction only. They have some money on best product also that can reduce their costs. We have recently have 2 more products keeping in view the requirement, that is, one is red mud, that alumina is producing red mud, and the conditioned fly ash also. This is in experiment stage. Then to reduce the cost as well as environmental impact on the aggregates, we used CTB, CTSB. Then rain water harvesting is also being done. Then recently, to increase the construction speed, we used precast material. Straightway we construct the culverts using the precast material, so it will reduce the costs drastically. Here I will say in few different headings what are the activities NHI Odisha is doing. One is traffic augmentation of major corridors. It is not only for the ports, for others also. Then we have a specific program of port connectivity, whatever ports they are saying. You will know we have planning to have more than 20 lane road for Paradip port. I will just give the details whenever I go. We have expressway, Raipur-Visakhapatnam expressway is going on. It is just recently started and near about 20% work has already completed. It is a 6-lane expressway. Then we have a coastal highway to connect all the ports as well as for this other purposes also. Then about the ring roads, we have ring roads to the towns such as Cuttack, Bhubaneswar and Sambalpur. We have planning for 2 major ring roads in the Odisha. Then there is a upcoming proposal also for a multimodal logistic park, but it was somehow feasible, not feasible due to Kankan has already in the line at Paradip, Jagatsinghpur, but still there are some proposals. To a last mile connectivity, we are upcoming rope base. However, not least, we have green highway projects just to reduce the carbon footprint. I will just show. To traffic augmentations, you can just already have visited. We have Chennai-Kolkata corridor, which is near about 392 kilometers, out of which 6 lane has already constructed near about 287 kilometers. Then the Mumbai-Kolkata corridor, which was recently almost completed, near about 406 kilometers completed, 50 kilometers is 2 lanes, that is 456 kilometers is going throughout the Odisha. Then the Bhubaneswar-Puri, it was already completed to 4 lane. Then Talcher-Chandikhol corridor, this is also an important corridor for coal links. Out of the 132 kilometers, we have completed near about 117 kilometers. Only we have some spaces in Dubri to Chandikhol. Then Panikoili-Rajamanda, it was already almost completed the 258 kilometers that connect the mining area of Sundargarh and Keonjhar to the ports of Odisha as well as other parts of the country. Then we have Biramitrapur to Barkot, then Cuttack Sambalpur, it is in half bay, then Baleswar Baripada Dharpakriya, it is also completed. Then we will go for the port connectivity, that is the important for this maritime logistic issues. One is the Chandikhol Paradip. Here you know it is already 4 lane. We are planning to have a 8 lane corridors of Chandikhol to Paradip. That is in advanced stage of feasibility. Tender is likely to be invited soon. During current financial year, it may be awarded. Not only that, keeping in view the Paradip's requirement, we have other roads also. One more corridor from Cuttack to Paradip is also being planned through Kandarpur. That is also 4 lane roads. So DPR is in progress, but the tender will be invited during current financial year, maybe somewhere around February or March. Not only that, I have already told near about 20 lane was constructed. One more is the coastal highway, that is parallel. So 4 lane on either side, that will be 8 lane. Then is a 4 lane for this one, 16 lane, then 4 lane is Chandikhol Paradip. Near about 20 lane corridors will be given to Paradip port. So I think in India, no other port will have some 20 lane corridor being planned by NHAI. Then other port also we are going for, then Gopalpur port, it is already functional. That tender was already invited, which is a greenfield highway for 4 lane. That was tender was already invited. Then Jamujhari Dhamra, it is also in advanced stage. Tender likely to be invited by January or February. This is a 4 lane green highway corridors. Then connectivity to Subarnarekha and Astarang, as per the request of state government and the others. The DPR is awarded recently. To my knowledge, the work can be awarded in next financial year after having all these activities. So these 5 major ports are, major/minor ports are being catered by NHAI. Then you can go for the expressway. We have an expressway of near about 240 kilometers out of 465 kilometers of the in the country, consisting of 3 different states. Chhattisgarh has 125 kilometers, then Andhra has near about 100 kilometers, and Odisha is the major chunk of 240 kilometers. This is having near about 5 kilometers of tunnel in 2 parts. That is 2 numbers of tunnels of 5 kilometers is being constructed by NHAI. That is the first in Odisha. Of course, tunnels are being constructed in other parts of the country. Then the work is going on just during current financial year it was started. It is a 6 lane configurations. Then we have a planning of coastal highway. that is a 4-lane coastal highway to be provisioned from Rameswar to Digha via Brahmagiri, Puri, Konark, Astarang, Nuagaon, Paradip Port, Ratanpur, Satvaya, Dhamra, Basudevpur, Talpada and others. Okay. That will give connectivity to all the ports. Then that here also we have invited 2 tenders, balance is likely to be invited shortly. Then 2 more projects, important projects of Capital Region Ring Road to bypass the city of Bhubaneswar and Cuttack, that is 112 kilometer of the ring road is planned. You can see from the map, this is actually Bhubaneswar and Cuttack is having a total ring road, though this Capital Region Ring Road is only half, but in other one it was covered. So we are having near about 300 kilometer of ring road to Bhubaneswar and Cuttack. Then in Sambalpur also we are proposing to have a 35 kilometer of ring road to bypass the Sambalpur town, because it is also an important route. Then what I have told, we have planned to have a multimodal logistic park. Initially we have feasibility for the 2, one in Sundargarh district and the other one is in Jagatsinghpur district. But as our requirement is much more, we have to have a 100-acre feasibility and must have rail, port and airport connectivity, higher cargo volume, logistic services in aggregations, then processing, assembling, storage and distributions. It is somehow not coming up recently. It may come in future because Concon has already developed, so feasibility is slightly not as per to Government of India's requirement. So priority has been slightly changed. So although we have 2 upcoming paths. Then as a last mile connectivity also recently ropeways are being constructed as per the requirement of PM Gati Shakti. But in Odisha, recently actually Odisha government has given some list, so feasibility will be carried out. If possible, we will have also the last mile connectivity through ports, through ropeways. Not least, we are having green highways, I have already told, to reduce the carbon print. We have already have different green highway sections, particularly you just see the photographs of some sections that is in Dubri Chandikhol and Chandikhol Paradip. Then we have more than the target, near about 10 to 11 lakh plants have already been planted in Odisha. With this, I would like to thank Paradip Port Authority as well as to the audience. If any more suggestion is required, they can give. Also to this, if they feel some of the roads are not required, they can also say. If it is not required, it does not have priority, then we can study to it, because tender is already going on. With this, thanks to all.
Thank you, Mr. Pandya, for your nice presentation. I now invite Mr. Anshuman to speak on the subject.
Good morning, everyone. So I thank Chairman Sir and Bal Sir for giving me an opportunity to be here and share some insights on how we can improve the logistic efficiency of India and for the state of Odisha. So I have a small presentation. I'll keep the time limit in mind and try and rush it up. Before we start, logistic is important and efficiency in logistics is important because it's vital for any country, more so for India because we are a growing economy, we are improving our scale in manufacturing and in agriculture, and we are also trying to reduce our logistics cost. I think efficiency, everything boils down to reducing the logistics cost. We have not to make the road villain again here, but if we have, as we heard, that around 26% of share is now taken up by rail, which was much lesser in previous years. Largely it has been the road, And when we compare road, it's not just the cost of road transport which brings down the logistics efficiency. There are other factors also, the delays in time, the driver shortage, the toll plazas delays. So logistics is not just cost. I mean, everything boils down to cost. Just want to highlight that 85 to 90% of the share are unorganized. So they're very, very limited big players which are having large fleet of trucks who can do an organized logistic movement of freight across the country. Anybody with more than 2 trucks or 5 trucks becomes a truck fleet owner, and hence there's a difference in cost parameters and efficiency parameters which are provided to the customers. And then of course in comparison we had seen that road has much lesser share than other modes in railway or airports or seaport. The next part is on the storage and warehousing. This sector is also equally unorganized. We have now players coming in who are like Indospace, Wellspun, who have an organized warehousing market or inventory catering to the e-commerce in pan-India. But again, small silos and small sheds being turned into a warehouse leads to a lot of inefficiency. Resulting in a poor service network to India as well. Having said this, the positive part is that we are growing, and we are growing in a big way in all the sectors, be it transport, be it warehousing, or be it in services, and I'll cover those in my subsequent slides. We have talked about logistics cost being 40% of India's GDP, which is much higher than other developed countries. Now there's a catch here. 14% is a number which has come through many past studies. We actually don't know, as India's cost to GDP from logistics is 14, 15, probably 10, because it has been there since 2018-19. Some studies have been done and they've just been carried out. To highlight here that Ministry of Commerce and Industry is now undertaking an exercise to actually prepare a framework and also develop a logistics cost to be a benchmark and then to be continued in the future years. As I said that roads is talked about as one sector which brings down the logistics cost or increases the logistics cost, but there's a poor infrastructure which adds to the cost. There are procedural delays inside the port, outside the port, at the toll plazas, at the warehouses, ICD, CFSs, which cost to the cost. And of course there's a institutional leadership. Now we have the Department of DPIIT and Ministry of Commerce who are heading logistics at a pan-India level. But a year back, across states, there was no single body or a committee who was looking at logistics. It was either transport or it was the Commerce Ministry who was taking care of it. However, with the push from central government, now there's a logistics institutional setup across all states, and with the Gati Shakti, PM Gati Shakti coming in, there are meetings and monitoring level mechanisms which are being developed. So I think things are changing, but still we have a long way to cover. Now, to solve the logistics efficiency equation, infrastructure is just one part of it, as I mentioned. The other parts are services and policy and regulation across all the dimensions of logistics. And skilling, technology, sustainability and processes are the key enablers. I think with the Government of India push from National Logistics Policy to PM Gati Shakti to ULIP, the things are being put in place. We just now have to work together to have an efficient logistics ecosystem and improve in all these 3 quarters of infrastructure, services and policy and regulation. Within this also, I'd like to spare a minute here that we always talk of movement of freight as logistics. it is not just the freight. There is in addition to the freight, there is a movement of documentation which happens. There is a information in terms of data which happens, and also movement of funds. And efficiency in all these elements have to be brought in to improve our time, to improve our cost, and improve our quality of logistics. There have been various aspects which we have studied from Germany, from US, right from congestions at port, or congestions at toll plazas, or entry exit to the ports, the time it takes. It all boils down to reducing the logistics efficiency and increasing our cost. So everything has to be put together and worked up together to improve our logistics efficiency. I think this has been covered. Just wanted to highlight again, there's been a serious push since 2020 onwards by Ministry of Commerce, Government of India, on bringing in or giving logistics a direction for the entire nation by bringing in a policy, by bringing in the PM Gati Shakti master plan, by developing the ULIP portal, which will ease out efficiencies at a much larger speed, by standardization of warehouses. So recently, 2 days back, I think Warehousing Association of India have come up with a standardization of warehouses across India. You'll be surprised to know that getting approvals for warehouses is a state subject, and in some of the states or many of the states, the number of approvals are required up to 48 approvals from various agencies, right from the civic municipal body to fire to police to electricity. There are no standards. I was talking to Amazon, and it was told that in let's say Gujarat, if a warehouse is considered to be a white category warehouse, by which it says that it can operate at 24/7 on all days, getting more subsidized electricity and taxes. The same kind of warehouse in, let's say, Tamil Nadu does not have the same benefits. So the standardization of warehousing and also other assets is very, very important. And I think this is for the industry that Ministry has launched e-log portal, which is a grievance redressal portal to first register, address and monitor the grievances which are being raised by the various industry stakeholders across India. To add to this, PM Gati Shakti also talks about, or rather has a commitment to all the states to about 5,000 crores for development of logistics infrastructure. I think the institutional mechanism which has been developed at the state level as well as at the center level are coming out with projects, and the funding is being allocated to the states for development of infrastructure. Now, states have also moved ahead and taken cue from the Government of India push. Many of the states have come up with their own policy, and I understand Odisha also has a draft policy in place which they are going to notify soon. But it is to be taken up from various states for the best things which they have done. UP being a landlord state, they focused their policy on warehousing, and they have given much leeway on development of warehousing sector, providing land banks, giving green channel to highways for logistics. Assam has come up with a policy recently last year. They have touched upon many aspects which the other policies have not, primarily covering the oversized dimensional cargo movement, hazardous cargo movement, skilling across the state. Karnataka is providing inspection centers and skill centers. Likewise, Kerala and Tamil Nadu. Kerala, of course, I'd like to mention here that they have come up with a smart enforcement system, which I'll cover in the later slide also, which is benefiting the state. Sure, sir. Okay. So I think I'll skip on the Odisha slides. We all know how much infrastructure we have and what are the key developments which are going to have. I'll just put in that what are the advantages which we perceive for Odisha is that it can act as a gateway to not only to the hinterland states of Chhattisgarh and Jharkhand, but also to Bangladesh, Myanmar and China by the port potential we have and by improving our port maritime sector. So I'll just quickly say that what are the important things which we feel that Odisha as a state should do to improve the logistics ecosystem. A, develop a logistics master plan. Now this is different from the PM Gati Shakti master plan. PM Gati Shakti talks about a supply side intervention, which talks about how we can optimize our projects by improving the alignment, by looking at the land areas, etc. This talks about how, where and what is required by assessing what is moving in my state, what is the OD of that movement, where are the logistic bottlenecks, and how that can be improved by various logistics interventions. So the other states have already progressed here. Odisha should also as well. Second is implementation and adoption of smart enforcement. This is an aspect which has been again being taken up by ministry. This is to check and various levels of inspections which happened for truck movement. How can that be digitized by a risk mechanism system, and how can that be improved for reducing the stoppages for the truck drivers and owners. ULIP, I think my other panelists would also be speaking about, is a portal which has been now integrated at a central level, including all the central ministries of ports and shipping, civil aviation, Ministry of Roads, Ministry of Finance and Commerce and Railways. Our suggestion is that state of Odisha should also have a state logistics portal, which should be integrated with the national portals, so that the information of how the movement is happening should be being aware, and then the decision making can be undertaken. City logistics plans are another level of interventions. All our key cities where the freight is moving, it is done in a sporadic way, be it the movement or the warehousing or how e-commerce is moving ahead. So the city logistics plan should also be developed to have the various interventions of be it policy, infrastructure or regulation. And I'll come to my last slide here, this is 6 key interventions which we feel should take Odisha to the next leap in logistics. A is to have smart enforcement mechanism, which I discussed about. Should definitely have skilling centers for driver training and also various workforce in the logistics sector. We all know how drivers for oxygen movement were not available 2 years back, and I think we should take that cue to train our workforce. We should have a startup so as to fund. There are a lot of startups coming in the logistics sector. We can have the big names and the small names on a movement of freight and also on improving how technology can be used for freight movement. We should have logistics think tank. I think with the panelists we have, there's enough knowledge that should be provided to the state. And also we can have think of having the logistics skill awards, which will just incentivize the sector to perform better. I thank you all. That's my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Anshuman. We have two more panelists. I request them to stick to the time. It's not for anything because of the time constraint. So, Manoranjan, thank you.
Good morning. Thank you, Balsa, for the beautiful introduction, and thank you, Chairman Sir, for giving this opportunity. It's a blessing actually to present it last. You can sum up on all the talks that has happened, but at the same time, the time constraint. I'll not take much time. I've been given the talk for NLP Marine. Okay, that's National Logistics Portal Marine, and blessed to be heading PCS as well as NLP Marine for a period of now 7 years. So I'll just move on. And yep. So when we talk about Gati Shakti, what are the DNAs of Gati Shakti? The DNAs are compressiveness, prioritization, optimization, synchronization, analytics, and dynamism of not only one sector but multiple sector. And here what I'm going to speak today is about maritime, because we are here from the port side of it. At the same time, I'll touch a bit about land and rail, which NLP Marine has already integrated a bit and would look forward to do more about it. Okay. Now this is basically an overview which I will just run through, because we all know about how the logistics sector works, and this was created when we were developing PCS as well as NLP Marine, along with my friend Mr. Anshuman's team, ENY, who were there, and are the PMUs for NLP Marine. Okay, these are basically the way NLP Marine would take up on what are the key factors, what you look at, integration of each and every sector into National Logistics Portal Marine, and also getting into it. Now here is what the main DNA lies when we say about maritime. Okay, MOPSW, as Minister of Port, Shipping and Waterways, who has got transactional systems at NLP and PCS, which has got TOS, that's the Terminal Operating System, which has got POS, and we have multiple other systems within the department. All those systems together with ULIT, okay, which has been now the central focus of Gati Shakti, feeding data into that along with the other sectors, make the DNA for Gati Shakti, where you get the data to transpire. And that's where the analytics and the dynamism comes in, where everybody can pull the data as required from those elements and construct their future needs. Now here, this is what now what's PCS and NLP Marine Gati Shakti? Let's look at it. This is what the PCS is all about. PCS was a more port-centric system which ran for about 10 years now, okay, or in fact it's in the 11th year, where basically what happened was, if you look at it, the ports which has been marked there in orange or the red eyes you would see, were the central focus which feeded the data or consumed the data from each and every stakeholders. There were about 27 stakeholders who constitute the PCS. Moving ahead from there, a thought came about that how would we innovate, how would we get into the cargo side of it, and came in was the NLP, okay, which came above PCS. Now here what you see, the focus is more from the cargo side of it, and as my friends here has spoken about, Raju sir and Roy, and also from the land side of it, how the cargo is moved, or what's the efficiency that we bring about in moving the cargo, getting the 14% lesser, and having the time considered. So that's where the focus has gone into. Now if you look at it, the movement has shifted from here to the importers and exporters, where importers and exporters, they are the focal point who would use NLP Marine, and going ahead would be NLP Air and Land, which will merge into this and will create the main DNA for the complete Gati Shakti, or what we call it as the importers and exporters to move the cargo. Now here, sir, we are integrated with rail, we have integrated with road, we are also integrated with air to a certain extent. DPIT has played a big part, and that's what was told earlier, where they have given how do we improve the systems. Now moving ahead from here, this is basically you need to know. When we say about the trend, how has NLP Marine come into picture? What was the trend of PCS? PCS was first implemented in 2006 and ran up till 2008, where it came out as a second phase, where the EDIs, or what you call it, the electronic data exchange, came into picture. From there on 2009, a thought came out that why don't we get into another phase of it, and that's how the PCS 1X, the new version of PCS was conceived, and that was rolled out. It's now the 6th year and the 7th year coming into progress of PCS 1X, which is now moving into NLP Marine. That's in 2020. In fact, in December you will see the rollout of the first phase of NLP Marine, which will be again focused from the maritime point of view, where the ports and the importer exporter will gain from it. And I think the notification should come this week or the early next week, where yesterday there was a meeting with Secretary Logistics and all, where we were a part of it, and said let's roll out NLP Marine because all the iterations are completed, we are ready to go live. Yep. So if you look at it, the trend is not, it's last 4 years or 5 years and somebody takes that credit. It's from 2006 the effort is going on, and we have reached now 2022, where NLP Marine, the biggest part of what everybody is waiting for, would be released. Okay, what does it do? It gives you the cargo services, the carrier services. When I say carrier, it is not only the marine sector, but also the rail and the road that comes into picture, the banking and financial, and the regulatory, which plays a key part of IceGate and other PGS who come into picture. And if you look at it, there's 43 trade association which will be associated with the NLP Marine with 19 ministries. Now when we say that, though this has been flagged off by Ministry of Ports and Shipping along with Ministry of Commerce, who had the initial thought about NLP Marine, but then there are 19 ministries who have signed the MOU to come on board, and they are slowly coming on board. It will take a while, the phases, but that's 19 ministries. 61 PGAs and EPCs that will be there. So all the electronic media of where, each of them would go to, knock each and every door of PGAs or EPCs would now come into NLP Marine, where there will be central repository to get the data. Okay. And 30 latch-on service. When we say latch-on, there are time-tested systems available in the market. There are players who are there in the market where people utilize those services. Those services also bought into NLP Marine, so that that's a single window. When we talk about the single window, in the world you see it as single window, single NSW and all. Here we call it National Logistics Portal. And NLP Marine is the first phase of National Logistics Portal, which will move into air and land also. Yep. Guiding principles, I'll just move across through this because these are all Gyan, and basically with the lack of time I'll just move. But then yes, the most important is the standardization of data and the data exchange, which is the UN EDIFACT messages, the APIs, those will come into picture. With the WC and all, we attend those seminars where you get, what's the latest going on, and those are being built. So the Rome was not built in a day, but it was destroyed in a day. So here what we do is we are trying to build phase by phase so that we don't get, pulled down. And that's where the guiding principles which we have seen comes into picture. What are the key outcome and impacts? Let's look at it. PCS, as we said, I was seeing the birth and all, the birthing has to be faster, and sir, you're working on it. We have done a bit on PCS where we took JNPT as our base, and what we did was the berthing and the vessel profile, where the vessel was to come in, used to take about 2 days to 48 hours, 48 hours to 36 hours, which has been brought down to 2 hours now with the digitalization what we have brought in. Okay, each port is on a different wavelength to come on board because till today we have different systems on port. That again is getting eradicated, and a single port operating system is coming into picture. Same way, sir, on the berth request, the e-berthing has come into NLP Marine in a big way, and we hope all the ports start using it, and you will see a different wavelength that comes in, and maturity that will come into the stakeholders by using e-berthing. So we had 27 stakeholders in PCS, now it will go beyond 42. That's already been envisaged, and we are working towards that. I'll not get into the data security and all that. There are certain success factors which we saw. While there are brickbats which comes to the place when you implement a new system, at the same time there are certain glories that also come when you get that EBL was introduced on time, and in fact the electronic bill of lading as well as the electronic delivery order in the PCS at the times of COVID has helped every port to gain mileage, that people do not have to come to the port during the COVID times. And also there are many more things that's come. I would not reveal much, but there are also the blockchain that's coming into picture. Need government's approval to move ahead. RBI basically who has to sign it off, but then those are already been built into PCS and NLP Marine. Objectives, I will not get into it again because of time question, but these are very clear. You could see that when we say sea, coastal, inland waterways and land, rail and road also is envisaged in NLP Marine. So it's not only the maritime, but it's a complete overview of it. And what you see, the last is what? Create an e-commerce platform and a marketplace. That will be the last end of trend of NLP Marine that will come into place as one of the phases where every information is available within the system. It feeds not only into ULIP, but it also feeds into various other peripheral systems of Government of India. Okay, the outcomes, there are different outcomes for the trade. Trade looks at how would be the ease of business, where would I save the money. The government looks at how it will go digitalize, how it will have each and every ministry come into picture. So these are the basically the expected business outcomes, and the whole team, as I speak here, the team is still now working there on getting the nitty-gritties in place to get NLP Marine on by December, and we will be through. So maybe second week of December we'll see NLP Marine going live with these business. Expected impact, this will be a first single window for the importers, exporters on throughout the trade for India, which is called as national single window outside India everywhere, and here it is called as national logistics portal. And incidentally, it comes into the gamut of the national logistics plan or the Gati Shakti of Prime Minister of India. Yep. So these are basically some of the takeaways or expected impact we will work towards it to get in. This is one of the critical, when we talk about systems can be many, you can have everything implemented, but there are critical success factors where the trade and the industry have to come together. There has to be a mindset to share the data, to transact on an online system. Yes, definitely not all of them have a good online system, but then there are a lot of ways to overcome that. Like in NLP Marine, we have created certain placeholders where who do not have a system can also go and enter the data there, and the data would be pushed into the port and the other authorities, and the data is retained by the user and not by the port or anybody. So those are also brings. So there are certain critical factors along with the government who brings in the mandates. It's also the user, the stakeholders who need to use it. Those would be the critical factors that we would get into it. Okay. And that's, I will stop my presentation as we have I'm sure I was in my 5 minutes. As I said, when you are the last, you can build on what we do, but then you have a time constraint. So I just ran through the presentation. And to say, sir, I would like to connect with you all to see how we take NLP Marine into another phase of not only with Chris, we are doing a lot with Chris on the railway side of it, sir. And we are doing a lot with ports to move ahead. Land, yes, that's coming, but I said it's at a different pace because it's a different kind of a ball game that comes into picture for the last mile connectivity. But having said this, let's brace and be ready for NLP Marine, which will come in December 2nd week. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Our last speaker, Mr. Sharma.
Hi, good morning all. Respected Chairman, sir, thanks for inviting. Mr. Bal, thank you very much, and ladies and gentlemen. I would like to focus more on, like we all are talking about that we need to digitize, okay? But somewhere we need to understand how the digitization is going to happen. Because I'm just looking at from an outside in view, wherein I'm not part of the port operation, the way port, like my knowledge is limited, to be honest, but I understand technology very well. In fact, when Mr. Raju was giving presentation, I was thinking, because he has covered completely whole spectrum, then I need to change my presentation in a way that how we are going to deliver the digital transformation if we are talking about, okay? If we see from a digital transformation perspective, okay, we need few important aspects that we need to have an integrated logistic portal, which Manoranjan has already covered, that we are already building up. But this is a open architecture kind of stuff which we are talking about, we need to have. But before that, we need to have an enterprise solution. We need to start using lot of applications, okay, which are connected, which are open to adoption. This is the first stage. The second aspect is that when we are talking about that we need to have a low code integration platform, and NLP is giving us that kind of a advantage that they are having a low code integration platform. They are exposing API and taking lot of stuff. I'm sorry that I'm going too much into the technical aspect, but this is what I am doing from last more than 29 years. Okay. The next important aspect is that we need to focus on the security. And when I'm talking about security, everybody thinking that hacker will come and they will steal the data. If you ask me, 95% problem is within the system, not out from the outside. Outside we are having a very strong fencing and all that has been done. But the issue is nobody focusing on the guys who are sitting inside the port using that particular application. They may be working as a contract, they may be working as a third party and all that. So we need to understand that how best we can save the data and all. So we need to focus largely on the cyber security, and we need to do a like full introspection that how we can have our data secure. Next is, I think we all are working on, and this is a very good aspect if we see from a US, China and all other perspective, that they are having a very good asset and the fleet management applications. Okay, they have completely automated this area, they are reaping the benefit of that. Okay, we are late, but here I would like to say that we need to focus on a approach and not in a jugaad kind of a system that we need to think of. We need to have a system, we need to use that system, not bypassing that system. Okay, so that's one very important operation. The next is the cross-docking solution. I think we will be having, we are already building, we are already having lot many systems which we can use. Last not the least is important aspect on the blockchain, because blockchain is a solution not only from a sustainability perspective, not only from a integrated perspective, but it offers lot many private contract you can have between two parties. And when I'm talking about two parties, it is not limiting. For example, like I'm just giving a very you can have some kind of a contract between your supplier and the department. Even two departments can have some kind of a contract which they can manage over blockchain. The blockchain is having a very important role especially in the maritime automation process and all. Okay, I will cover this in bit detail because I have worked, like I'm lucky to work with a very big blockchain implementation worldwide. It was not part of this organization. While I was with IBM, I have worked with Mercer. Okay, I'll share that case study a little bit. The next important aspect is that when we are talking about that we need to improve logistics, I think all the panelists, they have much more knowledge in terms of how much is the cost, what need to be done. This is how we need to do. I'm just focusing on how we need to execute that system. Okay, we need to have some kind of a logistic tower which is managing everything, and I'm just limiting my scope with respect to the port. I'm not going beyond port right now because I'm just focusing on the port. That there are lot many things, but if you see from order building to the delivery, there is a complete life cycle is there, and we need to attack all these blocks in a way so that we'll able to cover and bring efficiency out of it. Okay, I think panelists have already given put in lot of perspective into it, so I'm not going to speaking much on this. Next is how we are going to do it. So I will be touching the technology part. If you see the underline, when we are talking about the answer lies in IoT. We need to use lot of sensors, whether it is RFID, whether it is mobile to machine or machine to mobile, that we need to use. For example, as of today, I think you guys have seen lot of advertisement are coming. The guy knows that his Tata truck, okay, they have come up with this innovative because they are using technology in a way that they know that right now their truck is stationed at one particular location, it is not moving, and the AC is running. Okay, so that is one of the innovation Tata has done, but that is part and parcel if we want to bring efficiency, and it is a benefit of using technology in a way. RFID it's very much required to use for automated gate operation and all that, and I think Dr. Raju is already putting a lot of light on that. I'm not going to cover it. Blockchain is a very important fundamental, and I'll tell you, blockchain is not only for maritime. If I see use cases of blockchain, we need to use blockchain in our registration, property registration process and all that. That is going to use a lot. The next example is which we are not thinking of, the bank reconciliation process we are having. We need to use blockchain for that. That is much more safe. And one thing is, like we are using lot of paper. We need to work in a sustainable environment. We need to work in a paperless environment. I think if we are aiming for that, blockchain is the answer on that. In addition to that, we need to use AR, VR as well, wherein we are having a smart camera identification system, okay, and video systems doing lot of data streaming, checking each and everything, so that we can make our port smart, because ultimate objective of all this exercise is that we need to have a smart port. So I'm just moving fast on that. Okay, if you see from a end-to-end technology intervention perspective, this is what we are thinking with respect to the technology can bring all these benefit on the table. Okay, like we need to have a real-time assessment of each and everything. For example, I'm just
Actually, I have a meeting in Secretariat which is at 12:30.
okay, sir.
So no, I'm moving. You can carry on. So I'm so sorry because I'll not be able to, be with you.
No, I'm just trying my best to make it.
Please carry on.
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
Yeah.
On blockchain, obviously, it's very interesting.
Yeah.
So with Chairman's permission, I can. I'm so sorry that I have a prior appointment.
Thank you, sir.
May I request Secretary PPA, Shri P.N. Bahikar ji, to present a small token of gratitude on Angavastra to the Honorable Moderator. This is a very special protocol of my family that we cannot miss. Thank you very much, sir, for all the enlightenment and making this session special for all of us.
Yeah. Okay, so what I was talking about, that we need to have a real-time kind of a scenario. For example, I'm just giving you one very relevant example for you, sir. You are running your Paradip port. Okay, you need lot of data. For example, how much money we have, like how much bill we have cleared in a day. Okay, if it is available on your screen on a daily basis in terms of some kind of a dashboard, it will give you some kind of a confidence, because data gives confidence. Whether if I'm going to tell something that I have processed this much, that's not make that impression. If you see that information live in front of you, some kind of a data and all that will help you in terms of understand that this is real. Okay. Second important aspect is that we need to understand warehouse stocks and all. Okay, and we need to automate that in a way that we can manage. At a given point of time, if I wanted to understand that how many trucks are there in my port and what they are doing, somehow, okay, if we are able to get that kind of information, that will help us in terms of doing a better planning and all. Okay, and that will be giving us the better utilization and better operation of the trucks. Okay, if you see, this is a picture of a port, and I'm just going to give you a perspective in terms of that how a smart port need to operate. This is just a picture. I'm not going to explain. You guys are much better than me, know all this aspect. Okay. Sorry. If like what we need is, we need to have shipper coming in. NLP Marine is already giving us lot of information. Okay, we are processing that, turning it much faster, using better berth allocation and utilization. We need to do that. At the same time, we are having a command center, we are having drones, we are having a high security, and at the same time, we are having all the data available with us. Because important aspect is, if you see last 10 years, India is much more advanced in terms of technology, in terms of adoption. Right now, we are driving lot many organization across the globe that they need to think the way we are thinking. For example, WhatsApp, their complete development is India centric. Okay? If you talk about Facebook, their complete development is India focused, because they are understanding from India how we need to operate any application. Ola, Uber, for example, the fleet management and all, they are learning from India because we have the volume, and that is the advantage with us. Okay, so that we can have a much more efficient solution available. Okay, the only problem is we are late in adopting all this, and at the same time we are not coming up with the innovation. Now the game is changed, so we need to just focus on that. And how to achieve this from a port perspective, in fact I have already covered that we need to focus on enterprise, which we are already building up right now. We are having workflows, transaction processing, automation we are doing. But the next and the most important aspect is the analytics, wherein we need to do a predictive analysis. For example, yesterday I was listening to sir that he want to have 500 metric ton of cargo capacity to be handled. We need to have a predictive model available how we are going to achieve that. What all the nuts and bolts required to do that kind of activity. Then the most important aspect is that we need to move towards the industry 4.0 as well, wherein we are having AI, IoT and blockchain. In fact, AI is give us lot many variation in terms of the way we are working, whether that is correct or we need to modify into that particular AI and ML kind of suggestion. They can give us different kind of a models which we can use and implement and improve our efficiency. So with this, I would like to thanks once again to the panel as well as Chairman sir. Thank you very much sir. That's all.
Now I would open the floor for any questions from the audience, please.
Please go ahead. Sir, good afternoon, sir. I am Gati Shakti from Paradip. One thing I have to say, sir. Recently we were operating our rig from PMIP, railway siding, Paradip today. But now we have arranged on the railway siding, Pankar, Paradip. But it is also 10 kilometers away from our plant. Can Gati Shakti program help us to extend the railway line from Pankar to our siding, our plant siding?
Yes, of course it can. In fact, this is a multimodal logistics park will be the first one on Khurda division to be inaugurated under this new scheme.
Yes, sir.
And if land is available, I think the details provide for this facility. In fact, you are eligible to get returns at the rate of 10% according to this policy. You can take the details from me. There is of course a provision.
Yes, sir.
And if there is enough space available in your plant, this can be a second project which can be a second or third project which can be taken under the PM Gati Shakti scheme.
So can Gati Shakti help us for land acquisition processes?
Yes, it is also there in that provision that there will be two model bodies which will specifically look after environmental and land issues. So that is also there. It is a comprehensive policy. It allows for also that. Yes, of course it can.
Thank you, sir. One more question, sir. The Railway Board Directorate, by July we should get the buxom rack plentifully for gypsum loading, but till then we have not received so far.
That is a technical question, as you are well aware that though the wagons, the bodies of the wagons got manufactured, we had an issue regarding the axles. Now Government of India is now allowed import of axles from various countries, and we very soon we are looking at induction of more and more boxons, which will kind of, yeah, it's a very specific question, but yeah, we will try to, I think we can look forward in the next Q4 of this year for a little bit of easement of the situation. But for these 2 months, I don't think anything. Till after January, probably we can look at a better scenario.
Okay, thank you, sir.
I am on behalf of all the panelists. I am not only for me. So please go ahead and ask anybody any other questions. Please go ahead. Something to do with technology or maybe policy issues. So I think the audience is quite satisfied with what we had to say, and it was quite an enlightening discussion from all of us together, and it was a great learning occasion for me personally. I'm sure that all the panelists would go very enriched by this discussion we had, as well as the audience. So on behalf of Mr. Ball, who had to go for an important meeting, and all the panelists, I would extend my heartfelt thanks to Paradip Port and for the esteemed audience. Thank you so much.
Thank you, gentlemen. May I request Secretary PPA, Shri Bahekar ji, to please felicitate the panelists with Angavastra and a token of gratitude. That indeed was a thought-provoking session with the panelists and the moderator sharing their views and experiences with us. Thank you once again to all the panelists, and thank you, Secretary PPA, for doing the honors. We'll have a short break before we start the next panel discussion, so straighten your back and come back to your seat in 10 minutes. Thank you. May I request everyone to please come back to your seats. The delegates who have already had their cup of tea and coffee can please come back to their seats. We would like to start the next panel discussion. I once again request everyone who's still outside to please come back to your seats. We are starting the next panel discussion. That will be on innovations in logistics sector to reduce logistic cost and improving efficiency in India. I think that would be a dream mission for everyone to ensure that efficiency in logistics sector is increased as well as the cost goes down. And I'll request Shri Anshuman Srivastava, Senior Director UNY, to please join us on stage as the moderator. He needs no introduction, has been on the dais in the last session as our esteemed panelist. Can we have a round of applause for the moderator of this session, please? And may I request Shri Yalvendra Yadav, CFTM2, East Coast Railways, Shri Sharif Kamar, Fellow and Area Convener, TERI, Dr. Alok Badkul, ED Concord, Shri Alok Sahu, CGM Pipeline IOCL, and Shri Sagar Kadu, Director Logistics Division, DPIIT, to please join us on stage as the esteemed panelists, and may I request the moderator to begin the proceedings for this session, please.
Good afternoon and welcome back. I think we have still some seats to fill up, but we can start the session as we are already delayed on the first panel. So I have tall shoes to fill in after Dr. Bal, the introduction he gave to the topic as well as to the panelist, but I'll try to be brief. So we are discussing innovations in the sector to increase efficiency and reduce costs. This is probably has been the theme since morning we are talking about. So we have talked about what should be done. Now we'll talk about how it should be done in terms of innovations which can bring in the efficiency in the sector. We have a distinguished panel on the dais. Mr. Yalvendra Yadav, he is an IITS 2004 batch officer. He's been he brings in wide experience in working with the government, delivering on operating in commercial arms of Indian Railways, and he's presently working as the CFTM2 for Eastern Coast Railway. Welcome, sir. Next we have Sharif Kamar. He is joining us from TERI. He is a Transport and Urban Division Fellow there. He holds his bachelor's and master's degree in economics. He has more than a decade of experience which is spanning across public transport, urban and long distance freight, including urban freight, bicycle taxis, and calculation of emissions of greenhouse gases in transport sector. And he'll be talking about the same in his disclosure. He's committed to sustainable mobility, and he also uses bicycle for all his daily errands back home in Delhi. So welcome, Sharif. Next we have Dr. Badkul. We have a very senior panelist, senior logistics professional belonging to a ITS family. He's a 1995 batch officer, and he's done his MBBS from Bhopal, Madhya Pradesh, Bhopal University. He has been in charge of commercial and operations departments of various important divisions on Central Railways, Mumbai, Pune, Nagpur and Bhusawal. These are all key nodes very important for freight movement, and has worked on various different positions as senior DCM, senior DOM and divisional safety officer, as well as DOM, with working in the field of freight transportation, passenger services, planning, safety and business development. Dr. Bertkul also worked as the Chief Executive Officer for Messrs. Gateway Terminal, and in Container Corporation of India. He is joined as Group General Manager in 2017 and presently heading the area East Area Division for Concor as Executive Director. He is a wildlife enthusiast and also an avid bird photographer. And in his spare time, he loves to give personal medical advice to the needy patients. So that's very noble of you, Dr. Bertkul, and welcome on board. And last we have Alok, and he's presently the Chief General Manager of Indian Oil Corporation, Paradip Crude Oil Terminals. He is heading the oil and O&M function of the entire pipeline operations, which covers offshore operations, inland project execution, maintenance, and commercial formation. He has an industry experience of around 25 years, and would bring in the insights on the entire roadmap of pipeline supply chain operations for oil. And lastly, we have Sagar, who's the director from Logistics Division, and is currently leading the efforts on implementation of the digital initiatives which have been taken up by Ministry of Commerce and Industry, doing all the stakeholder coordination amongst the various ministries at the central level and also at the state. And under Gati Shakti. He brings along experience of around 17 years in the logistics supply chain and shipping sector. He has been instrumental in planning, strategizing, operationalizing the EXIM and coastal liner ferries, logistic management, as well in the public as well as in the private sector. So with much ado, I'll request Yalvind to please come on board and present his discourse. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Respected Harnath sir, respected seniors, colleagues from government service, from the trade fraternity. The topic today especially is how to bring about cost and more efficiency in the logistic services. It's been almost since 16 years since I've been in government service. I still remember the first presentation one of our professor was making, where he was mentioning that the logistic cost among the major developing countries, India almost ranks the highest, maybe somewhere around 14-15% at that time. It's almost now 15 years, 1.5 decades since then, we are still talking about the same logistic cost. About 15%, maybe 12-13% of it is, and that is where this Gati Shakti Abhiyan comes into picture, where the cost efficiencies, the Prime Minister pet project, I should say, wants to bring in, they wants to create more value addition in every step of way, and as part of it, I am representing Indian Railways, and Indian Railways is one of the backbone of Indian economy, and as Harnath sir was mentioning, in this particular area maybe sometimes it's also considered weakest sometimes, because the strength of the strongest chain is determined by whichever one is the weakest unit. But sometimes yes, it's subjective to how you perceive it. But all said and done, friends, I'm here, I've not come with any presentation, any fancy presentation. I'm going to talk from my heart, whatever I've experienced and whatever certain experiments that we have brought in. And again at that time,
Harnath sir was deputy chairman at Vizag Port. So one of the experience I want to draw and I want to share with all of you where how the intergovernmental coordination and how efficiencies is going to convert into reduction in cost and bring value to the customers. One such experiment, I should say, is a successful one. Is about few years back, Nepal used to import, all the third country imports to Nepal was routed via only Kolkata port. That was the only gateway port nominated by Government of India. Subsequently, few years back, Visakhapatnam Port Trust was also nominated as a gateway port. And then there was a major challenges. Obviously, the geographical distance of Kolkata from Birganj, which was the ICD, only ICD at Nepal at that point of time, was about 700 kilometers. Whereas geographical disadvantage of Visakhapatnam was it's almost 40 kilometers away from Birganj, Nepal. So obviously it doesn't make any sense for any Nepal importer to bring cargo all the way up to Visakhapatnam and take double the distance from Kolkata. That is where all the constituent governmental agencies have come into picture, where we sat with custom officials, we sat with Harnath sir. Concor was one of the important stakeholder. At that time I was on deputation with Concor. So all the agencies have come together and we decided we need to make this particular product a very hit. And the end of the day is we have realized that whatever Nepal used to import from to their country via Kolkata, we try to study the weakness that is there. There was an elaborate process of ICCD import cargo, container cargo declaration documents were given at that time. ICCD procedures were followed where huge amount of delay used to happen because the Nepal importers used to get the clearance from their Nepali bank in Nepal. The LC needs to be cleared and they used to send it to their embassy in India. Subsequently, the embassy used to send those documents to the customs in India and the customs in India used to clear it. By the time the documents get cleared, it itself used to take about 30 days. And compared to the congestion that used to get added up to Kolkata, the end users at Nepal, if he wants about say 50,000 units needs to be brought into India, he was only bringing about 30,000 at that time. That was about 5 years back. So there was a capacity constraint, there was a cost overrun to the customer because he used to pay a lot of detention charges, the port charges, terminal handling charges, sort of charges were being paid by the Nepali importers. Now, how are you going to address that? You can do it by removing all these constraints. The way you can do it is, we sat together and we have introduced this electronic cargo tracking system where ICCD has been completely dispensed with, where a web-based service was created in association with ADB, again governmental agency, Asian Development Bank, and ECTS product was brought into the picture, where the onus now lies not with the importer but with the shipper, the liner, where he used to feed in all the documents. And then in one shot, whatever the dwell time of containers used to be for 30-45 days in Kolkata, overnight it has come down to 1 day or 2 days at max at Visakhapatnam. So once this news started spreading, that's how the customers started gaining, because in one single shot he has lost, he doesn't have to pay the detention charges. In one single shot he doesn't have to pay any of these charges, and more importantly the huge time gain the party used to have, and also the liners from their perspective, their boxes were also getting released in time. So all this has added up to the win-win for all the stakeholders. That is one particular example I want to share, and I want to bring in how the efficiencies and the cost reduction was brought into this picture, and I'm very happy to say that still that is continuing and it's getting percolated across the other products wherever the international cargo is being dealt with. So that being one, and some of I could able to meet some of our friends from the trade. They were having some apprehensions about especially East Coast Railway. It is one of the biggest railway in India. It carries the most cargo, the biggest cargo of Indian Railway is carried by East Coast Railway, and we carry about 16% of the whole of Indian Railways cargo. So, and within that 65% of what we carry is coal, and most of it emanates from the ports and also from the Talcher area. So there is some people were asking us certain questions, especially regarding the constraint. I'm very happy to share that some of the constraints, especially the doubling in Sambalpur, is more or less over, and there was one important doubling which is going to get over at Angul Talcher Road by this December. So by this we are expecting more amount of rakes availability is going to increase at Paradip, both for inward as well as outward. So I'm sure some of the parties will be taking note of this. And apart from this, I would also like to share a small exam. I mean, sir is not there, but then yes, if there are anybody who is who want to take a note of it, I mean, it's my personal opinion. Right now we have various services within who are catering to the logistic field in India. Like we have Indian Railway Traffic Service who is looking after logistics in railways. We have customs who are actually looking at the statutory objects of whatever the export import trade is happening in this country. And we also have Indian Trade Service, which is actually looking at the I should say the bird's eye view of what should be the policy, exempt policy and trade policy of the government used to be. But then I sincerely urge the seniors, the officials and the policy makers to take a note and create one single service which bring everything under one umbrella and make maybe Indian Logistics Service, which comprises of all these things in one particular thing and maybe a unified way of addressing the things. This is what I have to say. Thank you very much. I thank Paradip Port Trust for giving me this opportunity and share my thoughts with this August gathering. Thank you.
So thanks for heartful insight on how real innovations are done through inter-coordination amongst the department, and they're not entirely technology driven. I also on the fact that this is what the ethos of PM Gati Shakti is, to bring in a coordination amongst the various departments and to take logistics and drive logistics ahead. So next on board I'll request Sharif to please come on the dais and present. Thank you.
Thank you so much. My name is Sharif and I'm representing TERI. First of all, thank you to the organizer, Paradip Port Authority, for inviting us in this esteemed gathering here, and we'll be presenting some of the works that we have been doing at TERI, and coordinating with multiple stakeholders, including the trucking sector, the railway sector, and of course the DPIIT and the logistics division at the central level. So I'll begin my presentation. First of all, I just wanted to see by the raise of hand if anyone can, in terms of how many of you have heard about GHG calculator or any such tools that are there in the public domain. By the raise of hand, anyone? Great, not many, but I hopefully by the end of the presentation, I'm sure, I guarantee that 100% would be available, aware of this particular tool that we have developed as part of the PM Gati Shakti multimodal, policy. So a brief about TERI. It was established in 1974 as part of the Tata Energy and Resources Institute, and it was led by Tata Chemicals earlier. Over the years, it has become the Energy and Resources Institute. I am representing the Habitat Division, which looks into cities, buildings, as well as transport. We have been working on issues right from high-speed railways to cycling. So that's the spectrum of work that we have been engaged in. I'll be talking about about emissions and how emissions and reducing emissions is kind of also leading to efficiency improvement, and that's how the linkage I'll try to bring in this particular session on reducing logistics cost and improving efficiency in India. So on the left side of the screen, you see what's the kind of fuel type or energy consumption that has happened over the years, and this is taken from a book that I was part of writing recently, It was released recently. So in 1950s it was largely coal, right? And then later on, as we see now, it's largely conventional fuel, oil and gas that is dominating the sector and driving the transport sector currently. On the right side is a very recent PPAC Petroleum Planning and Analysis Cell report, where you see the trucks and LCVs, the larger and the smaller vehicles in the commercial vehicle segment consume about 55% of the total diesel consumption in India, which would be about anything between 40 to 45 million tons per year. Now, I'll just talk about these 4 key areas in the subsequent slides, and I'll be very brief on each one of them. First one, of course, I mentioned about the GHG assessment and monitoring and reporting tools that are coming into the picture right now. Also because of the emphasis on India's, and PM announced this last year at COP, about net zero emission or net carbon neutral by 2070, which is the target for India. And believe me, many of the companies in the logistics sector have already started working on that particular issue of how to reduce emissions, and in turn improve efficiency and reduce costs. We'll also be talking about PAT-like regulatory mechanism, where Terry has also been working on one of the baseline studies for the trucking sector. As we are aware, there is no particular data available on the entire Indian trucking sector. So we are collecting some bit of development of data as well as methodology to collect data by the government organizations like Ministry of Road Transport, or at the regional levels, the regional transport authorities. Then the topic of freight aggregation, I'm sure we have esteemed colleagues and delegates from railways. Freight aggregation is one big policy that the railways is working on right now, and hopefully under the Gati Shakti policy, this will be rolled out soon. So I don't have much to delve into, but this is of course taken care of by the Indian Railways, which is a major player in and has faced multiple issues in this particular topic. And the last one is the environmental, social and governance reporting, which is the ESG reporting, and right now as we talk to the business people, they are basically saying that business is ESG and ESG is business in the current scenario. GHG assessment and reporting, so I'll not go into this particular detail. So GHG comprises of 6 major gases, and these are in turn converted into CO2 equivalent. On the right side you can see the conversion factors, which is basically the global warming potential, GWP, which is converted into carbon dioxide equivalent. Right, and how do you assess it? There are multiple tools available. Internationally, you have the EcoTrans IT tool, which is a German-based organization working on this particular tool since 1999. So it's been like 23 years now, which the tool has been developed and has come up to this stage. What we did, as the logistics division gave up this task, to Terry, to develop a tool which is very specific to India to calculate OD level GHG emissions. Not only GHG emissions, but as well as costs which are included in the transportation, both haulage as well as the carbon costs of emissions. So this is the tool which hopefully will be available online very recently. It's in the process of being uploaded on the NIC server. It has all the 4 modes of transport: road, rail, water, as well as aviation sector. And what it does is, essentially, if you want to send a cargo from A to B and you want to determine what is the GHG emissions, you would just use this particular tool to calculate it, and it will give, based on the default values, give the results. The tool also gives an option to the user to fill in their own numbers. So that's also fed into this tool. And happy to report, and there are several railway personnel here. So railways adopted this particular tool and the methodology adopted in this to come up with this rail green point, which the consigners can avail of while booking for the slots and the rakes. and they can actually claim it, and there is a reporting mechanism that is being given by Indian Railways. And day before yesterday I was there in Bangalore talking to transport fleet operators, the bigger ones in the sector, and they reported that, okay, this is one way, and I'll come to this, and it's connected to the ESG, the last topic also. They want to reduce emissions, and how do they do it is also to share their traffic with railways, and this is one way to report or reduce their emissions, by moving their cargo by railways. And players like TCI or Maruti Logistics, they are in fact doing this in order to meet that criteria of green component. So this is the tool. It's available. It's called freightgagcalculator.com. And it has all the 4 mode of transport that in India, and this is the interface for the input values right now. And then coming to the second topic, which was on PAT-like scheme. So this is something from the trucking and the logistics sector. We have internationally, and this is analysis that done by Terry, multiple countries, both in the developed and developing countries, have come up with freight programs. These are voluntary as well as compulsory in nature. Compulsory in China, of course, but voluntary in many other countries. And also there is a third component, which is an industry-led program, which is the center component, where we see countries like Brazil and a set of countries in Europe that are pushing this agenda of clean freight programs, where efficiency improvement is the topic, and how trucking sector could reduce emission both from the supply side, which is the OEMs, the manufacturers of trucks, as well as the users of trucks. ESG, of course, this is something we have been seeing all through, and this has picked up after the announcement of India's announcement of 2070 net zero emission target, and this is pushing healthy competition among logistics players as well, to push for GHG reduction, and in doing so they are actually achieving also efficiency improvement and cost reduction, because their diesel consumption is going down, the run time is less, the turnaround time is higher. So that itself is bringing in an indirect impact on efficiency improvement. That's it from my side. I already talked about the the third bit on freight aggregation. So thank you for listening me, and look forward to any questions if there is. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sharif. Thank you for your presentation, covering all the aspects on innovating and reducing emissions and bringing efficiency to logistics. Thank you. I now request Dr. Bhatkul to please come on the stage and present his discourse. Thank you.
Thank you. First of all, I will thank the chairman of the Paradip Port Trust that he invited me for giving my talk on this particular topic in front of this august audiences. I am also thankful to all my co-panelists that they have brought out certain things which are very important, and finally that improving the efficiency and the reduction the cost. So I am from Container Corporation. It's a key logistics player in the rail-bound movement of the containers throughout India. So there are certain points of discussion here, and I will just briefly go through them. So it will just consist of some introduction, history, common type of containers, also certain new initiatives of coming up of the various dedicated freight corridors, then multimodal logistics parks, and certain facilities, and finally relating it to PM Gati Shakti program, and where the Concor can be a partner in this entire multimodal logistics. Next please. So containerization is a recent phenomena.
it has come, first of the container came in 1956. So this is a recent phenomena, and that this phenomena has come from very requirement that during those days in 18th or 19th century, there were the movements were majorly through either rail or the road, and the roads were quite in bad condition, and everything was very costly. And as the requirement of the international trade increased, so the bulk moved from the bulk movement in the ships to the containerized ones in the metal containers. Next please. See, so originally this idea of containers was quite back in 1780s, but the real containers which you see as on day in the on various ships first was introduced in 1956 by Malcolm Perel Maclean, and he was can be called as the father of the containerization. So this is where the traditional break bulk was replaced by the traditional break bulk cargo was replaced by putting the metal containers. Next. So there are common type of these containers, and these are just type various containers which are used by the various agencies for the transportation of the goods. So here comes where the most important thing, that is the how you can use the containers for the purpose of increasing efficiency, reducing the cost. Actually, when you put the things in the containers, there are substantial savings because there are less handlings. You do not require too many manpower to handle the same amount of goods. The handling can also be mechanized, and even the stuffing can be mechanized. So all these efficiencies not only bring in the reduction in the cost, they also bring the reduction in the time. And when these are containerized, the utilization of the space, it increases. And if you have seen the container ships have got sometimes more than 8 or 10 decks above the main platforms, and there are already the under deck containers also. So there you can see that it's the best utilization of space which can happen. And one of the most important things which we often forget, that the utilization of containers can also reduce the reduction in the warehouse requirements, because the container itself can be used as a warehouse, and there are the intermittent handlings which are avoided. The security and the safety of the cargo, the pilferage can be brought down almost minimal with when you use the containers for a transportation. This also helps in reduction in the overall cost of the chain. Here it's the eastern and the western dedicated freight corridor which are coming. This is the eastern freight corridor which is coming up, and it is progressing at a very rapid rate. Part of it has already been commissioned. Similarly, on the west coast, part of it has already been commissioned, and rest of the coming is at a rapid rate. By 2024, I think both the things will be in place. So, how do you, when there are certain efficiencies, there are certain chains coming up on the rail, how you can be left behind? And the multimodal logistics for parks, which encompasses of utilization of rail, utilization of the road, utilization of the warehouses, value addition, these are the most important places by which you are going to reduce the overall cost, logistics cost. And here you can see the various advantages of it, and the artistic impression of how a MMLP may look like. So normally, what are the facilities with the MMLPs will be? It will be rail connected. It will have a facility of a dry port, that is called indent container port. Also for the domestic container terminals, and there will be the warehousing, both transit, bonded, cold chain. And access to the railway freight wagons can be obtained from there. One of the most important things that we have, they also use the machines that we call the reach stackers, forklifts, trailers for internal transfer and movement. Then all these things can be used for moving the majority of the commodities with the minimum time and reduce the cost also. And also we have the customized IT applications. See, as you go forward, there are certain things which we call as the 4 things which we have gone with. The first, the flow of the cargo. So a MMLP can very well handle the flow of the cargo. Then there will be the flow of the documents. Now these documents needs to be brought under a certain kind of an seamless integration, which is being done by using either a blockchain or using a common platform like ULIP, and by which the documentation part will flow fast. Then the one is the flow of the information. Documents are there, but the information has to be shared. So MMLPs are normally equipped with this kind of both. They have their software which can be integrated, they have their flow of information through the various channels that can be flow of document. Only the fourth thing is missing, that is the flow of the cash. So entire business will finally consist of the flow of the cash along with these three things. And once these four things are integrated together, the MMLPs can become a wonderful place by which your entire the logistics can be streamlined. So Prime Minister under his Gati Shakti program, a national master plan that is being launched for multimodal connectivity, and it has already brought the various ministries under its common program. And finally, the most important thing is to provide integrated and seamless connectivity. And here the logistics plan will also consist of seamless movement of the people also, because they are an important chain in making the entire logistics fruitful. Next please. So the main, as we say that our current cost of logistics is about 14% and it has to be brought down. Now you see that is, we are looking at reduction in the wastage of money at various points, and also the time which we are losing. And that is, this losing is because of there is an inadequate coordination of the various infrastructural projects. So if I am coming with one MMLP, Railways is coming with an additional line, the port is coming with additional berth, inside there are coming up in new industries. Now all these things are to be brought in a single time span so that you can get the maximum out of it. That's what the major reason that the government wants everything to be under one umbrella, where that people can coordinate, both people, governments, stakeholders, everybody, and finally the things come in which are attached to each other in a chain. And everything, I mean this is what the linking is going to happen, and a technological platform has been prepared, and our next panelist will be delving onto it. And at the same time, the budget is also providing a sharp increase in the provision of the money for these things which are coming up to be in sync with the NMP. Now, as it has been pointed out, there are 7 engines which have been pointed out. Each one of us need to function and deliver the ultimate product. So finally, this is what we are going to get, the economic transformation for making the country rise to the 5 trillion economy, a seamless multimodal logistics connectivity which will reduce the cost, and the logistics efficiency means you deliver the thing whenever it is required at whatever place it is required. So Concord is a Navratna PSU under Ministry of Railways, and it's an undisputed leader, and it has got 61 terminals which includes 14 MMLPs. So we are already into this business of MMLPs, and we are also going to come up with another. These are some MMLPs which we are operating currently, and the last one was the MMLP Paradip which we have added just now. This is our network of the terminals. And here for the Odisha, we have already brought 2 MMLPs we are bringing up. One is at Paradip, which will be consisting of 7 lines, and it will be handling both the fertilizer for the IFCO, coal and gypsum for the IFCO, and containers for the import and export, and as well as domestic consumption. And next is our Jajpur MMLP that is going to come up by the end of this financial year. That will be basically catering to the our steel and ferrochrome industry. And Concord intends to add another 20 MMLPs in next 3 to 4 years. Thank you for patient hearing. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Dr. Bhatkul. Thanks for the insights on containerization and multimodalism. I think they are the next wave of which India is going to take up on improving our containerization and the number of percentage of containerization across India, both international as well as domestic. And also multimodal logistic parks. There are various agencies at Government of India level who are working for development, and I think in the years to come we'll have much more streamlined logistics flow through MMLPs. Thank you so much. Next I'll request Mr. Alok, please come on the dais and give your insights on the pipeline business for supply chain.
Thank you, Session Chair, respected Chairman, Paradip Port Authority, all co-panelists, and the august gathering present over here. Ladies and gentlemen, very good afternoon to all of you. In fact, I am privileged to be given an opportunity to present the interventions, I can say, or the innovations in the logistics sector. It's a perspective from Indian Oil point of view. Presently, I work as Chief General Manager Operations at Indian Oil's Paradip Crude Oil Terminal, and oversee the O&M operations, and plus which includes the offshore also. We have got a offshore presence in Paradip, and in turn we cater to the requirement of crude oil across the eastern and northeastern states, where Indian Oil has got 5 major refineries. Going ahead, I will not repeat the things which have been already said, because we all know that logistics is a big game changer in the present day business, and Indian Oil is no exception to that. And pipeliners, as pipeline infrastructure of Indian Oil, plays a vital role in the business of Indian Oil. So we are basically the logistics man for our the most important wings, the most important verticals of our corporation. That is, one is the refinery, where all we do the production, and the marketing, who are the interface to the consumer. So basically, Indian Oil, as you may be aware of, is the largest commercial enterprise in the PSU arena of Government of India. And the roadmap for 2020-30 is quite ambitious, and we are in that direction we are working. And next please. Yeah, if in that, to realize that vision, that roadmap, the role of pipelines becomes a very, very important aspect. And this is a small depiction what we do. So our role becomes very, very critical as a pipeline to feed to the consumption center, be it the market, be it the finished product, be it the crude, wherever is the consumption center, we feed it from the source. That is the, in a very, very simplistic term, I can define that. Next. Yeah, we are, as I say, we are the logistics partners to our refinery vertical as well as the marketing vertical. Next, please. This point need not be, cannot be overemphasized, because the pipelines has got its inherent advantages. So, but at the same time, let me submit that we are talking about multimodal logistics. So we are not to say that we replace the X or Y or Z. We are here to coexist, and we should. I mean, the market would determine, to my belief, what is the best mix. So there our role comes into picture, and we also believe that the pipeline, although it's a very, very efficient system and all, but still the last mile connectivity, it might be by the road, or somewhere we don't have the presence, it might be the rail, the volume is not there. So there are multiple considerations are to be done. So we foresee as it's a coexistence of different modes, and there comes the pipeline's role. And in this context, I will cite
2 to 3 cases where the innovation or rather one out of box intervention played into the role, came into the being, and it helped Indian Oil in a longer run. Please go ahead. Yeah, this is already we have discussed. This is the precise plan what I was talking about, the refinery, the consumption, the production centers and our consumption centers. So accordingly we have the pipeline network. In fact, we are now reaching somewhere around 16,000 kilometers of pipeline across the country, and we have also the privilege, or we can proudly say that we have got a transnational pipeline as well. So in the year 2020, it was inaugurated by our Honorable Prime Minister. It's a pipeline we are feeding to Nepal as well. So my previous speakers were also talking about the case of Nepal importing something, so they are also playing a role. Next please. Yeah, this intervention I wanted to bring to the attention of all over here. In the year 2004-05, we have got a refinery at Haldia, and we needed to upgrade the refining capacity of that refinery, and in the process it was evaluated that the cost of transportation, because Haldia is a riverine port and it doesn't have the draft to support the kind of ships we wanted to unload there, so there was a restriction there. So we at Haldia used to be restricted by say 30,000 to 35,000 metric ton of that kind of a cargo, and in the international market is always the volume plays a bigger role. And the methodology, the modus operandi what was being followed was like, we used to bring in VLCC, very large carriers, which is having around a cargo of say roughly around 300,000 metric ton, and unload on the sea itself, that is called ship to ship transfer. It used to happen somewhere in Kakinada or maybe Vizag, maybe at Sandheads and other places. Then there will be a smaller vessel, we used to call it daughter vessel in the marine parlance, and these daughter vessels used to come to Haldia and unload. So this was the arrangement then. But when it was thought of upgrading the system, upgrading the refining capacity, then it was found that this system is not going to work. And that time a very coordinated decision was taken that we will install an SPM. SPM is nothing but it's a buoy floating in the mid-sea, and where the draft is sufficient enough to support a bigger vessel, like as I said in the VLCC. So that decision was taken, and Paradip installation came into being. It was basically to support the sustainability, or say the profitability of Haldia refinery. Paradip SPMs were erected, and subsequently we had the on the unveiled Paradip refinery was also coming. So that was a very considered decision at that time that we will install SPM system at Paradip, which can cater both Haldia as well as Paradip, which are just coming. And rightly so, 2016 we commissioned Paradip. Now Paradip installation, the offshore facilities at Paradip, I can say it is one of the largest in the country. We have got 3 SPMs with 92 kilometers of offshore piping, and we are capable of handling roughly at 45 million metric ton per annum. And right now we are handling 30 million metric tons, sir. And in the near future we are going to augment at least by another 10 million ton, because NRL looking at our facilities, our infrastructure present there, we have been approached by another northeast based refinery, that is Numaligarh refinery, NRL. They have approached us to unload their cargo. So this is to underline the point that these innovations, rather these interventions has definitely resulted in the business decision what has been taken, and this has supported not only these 2 refineries what I was talking about, now almost another 3 refineries of Indian Oil. In addition to that, NRL is also going to depend on us. So this kind of interventions in logistics sector are going to come, and these are, in fact, I would say these are the game changers. These are the disadvantages of STS what we are talking about. Please go ahead.
This is the SPM system I was talking about. This is a buoy which is floating in the mid-sea, and the ship can safely moor with the buoy, and the buoy can move around, the ship can move around, the buoy is stationary, and we can unload the cargo. Here, in fact, all international cargoes, you can find this is the arrangement. The volume, the size makes it advantageous. Yeah, please. Yeah, please go ahead. These are the advantages, disadvantages, and this is what I was sharing, that almost India's 13 to 14% of crude oil cargo is unloaded at Paradip. That means in every 6th or 7th barrel, it is Indian oil at Paradip we are doing. So that is our contribution. May it be very modest, but this is our contribution to the nation's progress. And we are rising leaps and bounds, as I said. We'll be very soon reaching 1500 tankers at Paradip. We have unloaded so far nearly 300 million metric ton, almost worth of 10 trillion Indian rupees at Paradip. Yeah, please get it. Yeah, this is how we are feeding to other sections. Yeah, please go ahead. And one more intervention what I would like to share, that as we are discussing the last mile connectivity, this is one this is one innovation where almost like from the tanker we can feed to the refinery. That is one intervention we have done. Earlier, like from the tanker you take it through your offshore pipings, then store somewhere, then again process, then that kind of interventions were there. But now this innovation what we have done, we can take directly feed to the refinery. So there is no stoppage in between, and the logistics is perfectly tuned to the refining process. So that is one kind of intervention we have done, and it is reaping us good benefits. And next one, please. Coming to the coming to the arena of white oil products, the finished products, what we are doing, dealing at Paradip. Paradip refinery is, even though it is a coastal based refinery, we are still need to feed to the hinterland, and Indian Oil has got all pipelines connected to our Paradip based refinery. We have got 3 pipelines which are ready, and Paradip refinery is passing around 15 million metric ton, and it gives rise to around 10 to 10.5 million ton of product. So Indian Oil's pipelines are ready to take that product available. We are 3 pipelines which has got accumulated capacity of around 13.5 million metric ton. So as Santosh Mahapatra sir yesterday was sharing that a good infrastructure person should have at least 30 to 40% extra with him. So we are almost double. Of course, this comes under PNGRB guidelines also. So we are keeping that extra margin with us. Any time any extra quantity can be pushed. And along with the vital product, also we have got LPG pipeline, which is again taking the product away from Paradip refinery. And we all know that LPG is mostly it's a social fuel. It requires at each household. So there also we are playing a role. We have got a pipeline here which goes up to Durgapur, and beyond that it is also extended and likely to be commissioned now. So if that is done, then again I would share the same fact which our earlier speaker was sharing, that we will be able to feed to Nepal. Now if I find Nepal's this LPG bullets are flying from Paradip or maybe to Haldia and all. So we are targeting that also. So once that line is commissioned, this road traffic will be taken off. So that is the kind of intervention we are looking at. And please next slide. This is our dream, that Paradip refinery will produce the ATF, the aviation turbine fuel which are required for the aircrafts, will directly feed into the aircraft without any intervention. The pipeline and aerogenet, it is already there from Paradip up to Jatni, and from Jatni we are laying a line, dedicated ATF line, and it will go directly to the airport, and from there the Bowser will take and simply fit to the aircraft. This is our dream, and this dream is going to be realized by say March or maybe April 2023. We are on the job. Next please. this is another improvement which we have taken to cut our cost and all. Earlier, during the monsoon intervention time, we were not doing much of berthing by this thing. Then again, we have discussed, we have deliberated, then now berthing is being done, and it is adding value. I mean, we are able to cut our cost, then it is also adding revenue generating for port. So this is a wonderful achievement jointly by port and Indian Oil. I'll thank Port Authority for that. Next, please. Yeah, this is one area where we are working with the berthing during night time. It is so far not in practice, but we are deliberating. Recently, we had a meeting with our western coast counterparts. They had some experience. We are also talking to other cargo handlers who are doing this kind of unloading. So if any development is there, we are definitely be in touch with port authorities so that this becomes a reality. And as of now, we have got 37% of berth occupancy as of now. So by this, probably will be touching around 40 to 43%, and that will be a big saving for us because it nevertheless costs us demurrage. So that will be a saving for us, and in turn, it will be a benefit which can be passed on to the general public. Next, please. Yeah, this is what I was talking about, the fast transnational pipeline which has been connected, and it was inaugurated by our Honorable PM in 2020. Yeah, next. Thank you so much for your attention. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Alokji. Very, very well covered, insightful presentation on how pipelines can coexist with other modes of transport, and how coordination can assess, help assessing the need for a SPM system at Paradip, and even making Paradip bigger and larger and shining both in the domestic and the international landscape. Thank you so much. Lastly, I'll request Mr. Sagar to please come on the dais and present his views.
So, good afternoon everyone. Can we have the PPT please? Right. So, we have seen from the morning lot of session and lot of delegates speaking on the logistics sectors. We have a distinguished delegate speaking on the railway, road, connectivity, ports and all these things. So, this is what the objective I would say for the Gati Shakti. To remove the silence, to bring all the mode of the transport on the single dais. Though it is organized, the objective of the summit is to bring all these people together. The summit is organized by the Paradip Port Trust, and we have a delegates talking from the railway, road, technology, digital. That is what the objective of the PM Gati Shakti, and that is what we are organizing these summits at the central as well as the regional level. We are organizing these summits at all major ports, at all states, all the ministries are organizing. First idea is to give the idea what is the Gati Shakti, adoption of the Gati Shakti at the central as well as the state level, regional levels, and to bring on the new ideas. That is what the innovation. So all we can say it is connected. PM Gati Shakti, National Master Plan, and the topic what we are discussing, innovation in logistics sector to reduce the logistics cost. I would like to share with you the whole idea of this, PM Gati Shakti. It was like the innovation of what I'll say by the Honorable Prime Minister's vision when it was discussed to how to reduce the cost and bring the efficiency into the logistics sectors. So that's where the idea of the PM Gati Shakti came in, and I would say that would be the biggest innovation of the century. Again, now we know innovation now in today's world, innovation is a survival, innovation is a growth. We have seen in pandemic, post-pandemic era, now without innovation and pushing the capability in supply chain or any sort of business, it is very difficult to function. And there are various aspects, services, digitalization, and I must tell you government is not behind in it. And what is PM Gati Shakti is what is nothing but a digital aspect what is being adopted by the government. So we'll just, before summing up, I'll just go through roughly, we already had all the topics, so I'll not take much of the time, we'll just see how it is connected. Next slide please. Acha, I can use this. Okay, so PM Gati Shakti is definitely a transformative approach for economic growth and improving sustainable development. Now it has a two aspect, national master plan. It is basically a digital portal for integrated infrastructure and network planning. As we have been hearing that logistics is the backbone or the lifeline of the economy. Then what is the backbone or lifeline of the logistics? It is the infrastructure, because that is what the logistics is running. So infrastructure is the part, and national logistics policy is the second part of the PM Gati Shakti, which is again the target is efficient and integrated logistics system. So the whole idea of this summit or the logistics efficiency is to bring the integrated development of logistics ecosystem. So we are not discussing the railway, road, everything is important, all are connected. That is what we are calling is a multimodal summit. Again, it is a next infrastructure development for Amrit Kal, seamless, that is what the objective. Next slide. So it is PM Gati Shakti is nothing but a digital portal created by a government, where all the governments, whether it is a central government or the state government, they have come together. All their roads, infrastructure layers, what we call, when we call the layers, it is the network of the railways or the highways, everything is been mapped. We have close to 2,000 levels, be it a rivers, be it a land revenue map, be it the ports, everything is mapped on the portal. Now if we have to execute some new project, the greenfield or the brownfield projects, now we are moving to the paperless. The ports, the project is being mapped on the portal. We can see if new project, it is a greenfield project, it is crossing the state roads, what railways, where we need to build the ROBs, where it is cutting, where it is crossing the forest. Now the interesting part, I would say, like this is like we are discussing on the sharing the dais. Similarly, PM Gati Shakti have an institutional mechanism, EGOS and NPG, Network Planning Group, where all the senior officers of the main infrastructure ministries are sitting together and discussing the project. If particular railway line is new greenfield railway line project has to, it is mapped on the NMP and it has been analyzed where all the crossings are there and decisions are taken, the modifications are done in the meeting itself, on the portal itself. If sometimes it has been found that this particular sector is passing to the forest and it is difficult to get the approvals, so the decisions or the suggestion, recommendation are given into the meetings that okay, we can change the alignment. The portal gives idea how much it, which states it is crossing, how much land we need to acquire. So this is what the PM Gati Shakti is been planned and the transformative approach. Data layers which already talked, this is again previous slide please. Yeah, next. Yeah. This is again PM Gati Shakti, roughly what we are talking, ease of planning, integrated planning approach, reduction in time overrun. Now we know, everyone knows with all these infrastructure, big infrastructure project, there is always, you know, the time and cost overrun. Some delays or some approvals are there. So this is what the PM Gati Shakti objective is, to, you know, fast track the infrastructure projects. Ease of project monitoring, ease of doing business. Now the DPR or the railway officials or the NHAI officials, they can use, they can monitor their project, plan their project on the portal. It gives the visibility, how much land, and it is basically the project planning which used to take close to 6 to 8 months. Now all these activities are been taken in a less than month or 2 months, that's it. Again, ease of governance, ease of permission, and again I will say it is, when we are talking of the ease of governance, this PM Gati Shakti is again an innovation in the governance. This is what I will say, the innovation in governance, the way of working is changing. That is what PM Gati Shakti is, the biggest innovation in the governance. Yeah, now we'll just touch up what how the PM Gati Shakti and National Logistics Policy are being connected to the logistics efficiency. We already know, we have discussed about the cost and all these things. Currently cost incurred by logistics sector is considered comparatively higher than these developed countries. Again, we can cost are mainly categorized: transportation, warehouse, inventory, and the process cost or administration cost, what we can say. Then PM Gati Shakti is addressing mostly the infrastructure cost, because we know now in the A to B, for example, now with the road infrastructure or the rail, it is taking 30 hours or 40 hours times. So this is the objective, is to reduce this lead time to the minimum possible level. Warehousing, we already discussed, we are working on the warehousing standards, warehousing policies, inventory management is being addressed, and administration cost, again e-logs, customs, they are working all together to reduce this policy frameworks, to reduce the documentation. Again, digitalization plays a very important part into it. Again, what we discuss, the idea is again to reduce the time and the cost over, and where ultimately to bring the efficiency into the logistics efficiency by the various measures. It's not only the government, or we need the support of the private service provider, private ports, private stakeholders involved into the complete ecosystem. So ultimately to bring in the efficiency and to reduce the cost thereby. Seamless movement of goods we already discussed. Then infrastructure readiness and technology are expected to the key drivers, and that is what the focus is. When we launched the PM Gati Shakti, the idea was to bring the seamless infrastructure policies, but then it was found that the Gati Shakti is helping in the social sectors. So initial idea was the seamless movement of the goods. Now we have included seamless movement of the people, ease of doing business and services also. Now this Gati Shakti approach is being adopted by the social service sectors also, including the education, the banks, and they are also working, taking the use of this portal and overall the framework. That is what the idea is, again to bring all the stakeholders, 4 modes of transportation, railway, road, air or the waterways, basically to bring the visibility. Every mode of transport is important. We discuss about the first mile, last mile connectivity. What we was saying, there wasn't visibility and they were not talking to each other. Now why it wasn't talking to each other? Because it is difficult when the geographies of the India and the amount of the goods we are transporting, it is very difficult to manage the things humanly. So I would say digitalization of all these processes is very important. That's how it will bring the visibility, because we don't know if the cargo is originating from the Delhi and it has to connect coming from the rail and it has to go to hinterland by the road. But till that we are not knowing when it will reach to the B point and how it is getting connected to the road. That visibility and interconnection talking was missing. So digitalization is very important, which will bring all these modes together, bring the visibility, to the shipper or the consignee, and he can plan his things. That is what the ultimate approach or the goal of the PM Gati Shakti, to bring the seamlessness in the goods transportation. So this is already, we discussed lot of things on the blockchain and the IoT services and the data analysis, AI. I'll just skip these slides, we already talked on this. So that is what the idea is, to remove the silos, bring in the digitalization into the processes, into the services. Government is there, we are doing all the efforts, all the ministries are working together to improve the infrastructure projects. Now we need the support of the private stakeholders to pump in the investment. There are a lot of Sagarmala, Bharatmala projects. They all are working on the PPP model. We are there. These of national NSWS or the single window portal, all are there to facilitate the investor to minimize the documentation process and ease of doing business. So I'll just sum up my presentation here, and thank you very much again. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sagar. Thank you for again giving us a deep dive on what PM Gati Shakti is and how transformative has been the vision of Honorable Prime Minister while bringing this in his vision to a reality. And indeed the benefits of the PM Gati Shakti has been witnessed by the transport and logistics sector in the past 1 year, and that is how it has been extending now to the social sectors to benefit people at large. So thank you so much for that. I think we are done with the presentations by every panelist, and let me thank everyone for keeping the time in consideration while delivering their presentations and speeches. And I will not take further time to be in between your lunch and yourself. So thank you all on behalf of all panelists. If there are any questions, we are happy to take it up.
When it is passing through NHI, it is creating problem and traffic congestion also created. So how we can clear it? If one median crossover can be formed in front of our plant gate, then it is easy to move and your traffic congestion can be clear and your carbon emission also can be reduced. We have requested number of times to NHI, but they are not helping us. So
we understand your problem, sir. Now under the national logistics policy, we are working, each ministry is working on their specific commodity-wise logistics policy.
Okay.
For example, we have already have the coal logistics policy, which is in a draft stage. We request you to, sir, just approach your ministry. They must be working on the fertilizer logistics policy.
Okay.
And again, in the port sector, we have already worked on the identification of the first and the last mile infrastructure, or what gap identification.
Yeah.
What I could understand from you, there is a small last mile connectivity gap which it just needs to connect. Lot of projects, including the Paradip Port Trust, sir is already on the committee. He is heading that committee for the eastern zone.
Yes, sir.
So we are analyzing where that missing links are there. So this needs to be communicated to your ministry, sir. Maybe we are discussing the ministry wise. Each presentations are working on with the coal or the cement or the steel, all the commodities basically. So that project has to come from the ministry to us, where this, what is the requirement. In that ministry we have the senior officers from the railways, from the ports and all these things. So all ministries will take a call on that. What is a feasibility assessment, what is the cost involved, and any land acquisition, states are also been onboarded now. So that mechanism is there, sir. So I'll request you just approach the ministry or somehow brought that missing link to the forum of the
Provide a representation.
So we should represent to the fertilizer ministry, no?
Fertilizer ministry, right.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? So I think we do not have any further questions. We can close the session, and on behalf of all my co-panelists, I thank the Chairman Paradip Port Trust for giving us this opportunity to present our thoughts, and I think we are all enriched by the discussions we have had since morning and yesterday, and going back to further to improve the freight movement in our respective fields. Thank you so much.
Thank you, gentlemen. Yet another insightful session that was. May I request Deputy Conservator, PPA, Captain Alex Sahuji, to please do the honor of presenting mementos to the panelists. Can we have a round of applause for the panelists and the esteemed moderator, please? Thank you very much. The honorable moderator and the esteemed panelists for the brilliant session, throwing some light on some major issues, sharing their perspectives and experiences. traditional uttariya and a framed Patachitra with 3 lords. PPA has carefully chosen the souvenir. It's really thoughtful. Thank you very much once again, gentlemen. And thank you, Captain Sahu, for doing the honors. I now request Traffic Manager PPA Shri G. Edison to please present the valedictory remarks and also propose vote of thanks.
Respected Chairman, Paradip Port Authority, distinguished dignitaries on the dais and off it, delegates and other invitees, my colleagues, media and other members. Once again, good afternoon. I'll take a very short time to give a brief and also propose a vote of thanks. We started with the inauguration section and we had 4 technical sections under the theme of PM Gati Shakti Multimodal Maritime Summit 2022. The key points that emerged out of the inaugural and 4 technical section is being summarized. As you know, the Government of India vision is to reach 20 trillion economy by 2040. And out of this, the significant contribution shall come from the eastern part of country, particularly both the shipping sector and from the Odisha. Odisha, having mining and industrial belt with its long coastline, is best suited for this exponential growth. The major contributing factors shall see the demand in the cargoes like thermal coal, steel, fertilizers, other ores and containers, to name a few. New linkages connecting east and west coast in the form of coastal shipping is being explored, which will add tremendous growth to this potential. This turns the focus on development in infrastructure in ports, railroad and inland waterways, which shall act as the catalyst towards effective supply chain management. The development projects that have already been completed under Gati Shakti and those in pipeline are focusing on this as a major bulk hub port is an example of Paradip Port Authority, which shall create a capacity of around 750 million metric ton by 2047. This will be supported by other ports in Odisha. It has been deliberated during the technical section that the originating end like MCL, steel industries and fertilizers, there is an immense potential for loading their cargo. And similarly, in the destination point of ports, it also has the capacity. The challenge lies in connecting this movement of goods from the originating to the destination point towards an end-to-end solution, and this has to be done by the railways, national highways and inland waterways. From the shipping side, it was pointed out that along with the infrastructure, operational efficiency also needs to be focused to reduce the TRT of the vessels at the ports. This will also bring down the logistic cost by making use of the concept of multimodal and to supplement each other rather than be a competitive agenda, and to bring down the logistic cost from 14% of the GDP to 8%. A need was highlighted to address the demand of the railway in the scope of infrastructure, as the rail share is expected to go to 40%. It was deliberated that the railways are on tracks and there needs to be a model shift by moving goods for longer distance by rail and to bridge the shorter distance by road. MMLP is one of the solutions in the ecosystem. And added to this, in the inland waterways should be the driving force in the coming years, and systems like Indo-Bangladesh and Indo-Nepal protocol route model was also to be explored. The success story of movement of IFCO gypsum in Paradip Port Authority is an example what multimodal can achieve. This deliberation brought in the success story of Prime Minister Gati Shakti, basically a digital platform integrating 16 departments for coordinated effect. It pulls the 7 engines towards the multimodal logistics seamless movement. There was a thought on the funding model also, because the present funding model meets based on the monetization of the government assets, but the challenges are still there, as the investment expected is around 870 lakhs crores in the next 75 years. We had an insight on technology-based solution, digitalization process, which includes PCS, NLP, transformation towards a smart port. Digital twins, AI-based solutions will help end-to-end supply chain optimizations. Time, cost, quality, other than infrastructure also needs to be addressed to bring down the logistic cost using digital mode. NLP is to be the DNA of Gati Shakti and also will be a game changer in port operations, and to be a medium towards integration of all other systems including railway. Insights in the technical part and blockchain technology gave us an insight on the future of digital challenges. In the course of development of infra and digital platform, the need to reduce emission was also discussed, particularly international clean freight programs, which also needs to be focused. The role of Concor in movement of containers along with its ecosystem like MMLP, which can reduce the logistic cost and seamless integration, and the role of IOCL pipeline in supply chain and expansion plan was discussed in the morning. In the end, the PM Gati Shakti is a digital portal bringing all stakeholders together, which is the biggest innovation in governance to reduce time and cost overrun. And such summit brings in new ideas and solutions. Some of the feedbacks received during the course of this shall be worked upon, and a solution will be found out for the one-to-one solution. Now I like to take a few more minutes to thank all those who have made this event a wonderful one. The inauguration section was graced by the august presence of Sri Suresh Chandra Mahapatra, Chief Secretary, who graced the occasion as a honorable chief guest. He gave an insight on the state of Odisha and its potential to be a part of this Gati Shakti. The welcome address was given by Sri P.L. Harnath, Chairman PPA, who made a presentation on to be the largest post by making a record performance of crossing 125 million ton in this financial year, and will be in a position to handle 500 million metric ton by 2047. The inaugural section was also addressed by Sri Jain Singh, Vice Chairman IWAA, who gave an insight on multimodal, particularly on IW inland waterways, who used the term low-hanging fruit which needs to be harnessed. There was an special address by Sri Bhushan Kumar, Joint Secretary Sagarmala of the Ministry, who gave the overall government perspective of the Gati Shakti, its success and challenges. Sri Rinkesh Roy, DRM, East Coast Railway, gave the railway performance and the future challenges. In the end, Sri A.K. Bose, Deputy Chairman PPA, gave a vote of thanks on this occasion and came out with the theme of the coming sections. I'll also like to thank all the moderators and panelists. We had 4 sections. So we had the moderator Sri Santosh Mahapatra, IAS ex-chairman PP and his team, Mr. B.K. Joshi, ex-COM and his team, Sri A.K. Bal, IRS ex-chairman Mumbai Port and his team, and in the last section we have Anush Kumar Srivastava, Deputy Director, Ernst Y. So this has given us tremendous support and the success of Gati Shakti. In the end, I'd also like to express our thanks to all the delegates who have come in large number, our other port users, other invitees, media and all our officers and staff. And in the last, I'd like to express my thanks to the organizing committee members. It requires a lot of efforts to make this function a success. Thank you once again.
Thank you very much, sir. With this, we declare the summit over. Everyone, please